Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the May 2022 Committee on Accreditation meeting to order. Will the staff please call the roll?
Cynthia Amos, Jomaline Belatayo.
Make sure you say it in the.
Oh, sorry, you'll have to unmute the microphone. Kathy Gracia,
Here.
Trina Chakowski,
Here.
Cheryl Forbes, here. Bob Fraley, Mike Hillis,
Here.
Lynn Larson, Marty Martinez, Jason Lee,
Here.
Gerard Morrison,
Yep.
Kevin Taylor.
Yeah.
We have a quorum.
Great. Wonderful to see you all again face to face, right? It's so wonderful and to be back home. We're saying it feels like we're comfortable, but it's like we know where we're going, right? Cheryl and I are walking down the hall, so it feels like it's been so long, but yet it hasn't been that long. I want to welcome David DeGear, and David's going to say a couple words for us, so we want to welcome him before he get off to his other meeting. So David, welcome.
Thank you. And I wanted to welcome all of you back to Sacramento. We are really excited to have these meetings in person again. We appreciate your patience with the technical issues that we've had. Staff have been working hard for quite a few weeks now in preparation, and we are ready to go.
Great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. I know you have to head off.
And I've got another meeting in the building, so I will be in and out.
Okay, great. We'll see you. Thank you so much. I do have to say, meeting some of you in person for the first time, some of you are a lot taller than I thought you'd be. It's like, wow, I didn't quite expect that. But anyways, it is definitely good to be back. So welcome again. Go through some logistics here. The meeting is being conducted in person for the first time, as you know, in over 2 years. Most staff and members are participating in the commission office. Many participants of this meeting and some staff will be attending virtually, and the Zoom link has been made available to the public. Regarding the microphones, this is a very important reminder to please press the button on your microphone to activate it when you speak. And if you do not do that, those listening online will not be able to hear your comments and they will not be recorded. So please, even if you are making a brief comment, remember to push the button before you speak. The green light will come on and then you'll know that the mic is hot, and then just push it again, it should turn it off. And I promise I won't say your mic is off. Zoom identification. We'd like to ask that everyone check their Zoom ID and make sure it contains your first and last name accurately so we're able to call on you appropriately, and also so that we get all names accurately recorded in the record. If you need to update your name, click on the 3 dots in the window with your picture to bring up the rename option. When it's time to take an item, we will need a moment to bring the appropriate attendees into the main meeting room and be sure that they can see and they can also hear. Participants will need to turn on their camera and unmute their microphone. Regarding public comment, if any member of the public wishes to comment on a specific item, please use the raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen during the item. You will be brought into the main meeting room at the appropriate time and asked to state your name and affiliation for the record. If you wish to speak on a specific item, please send a request through the chat feature telling us which item you wish to speak to so we can make sure to call on you during the appropriate time. Or you can send your comments through the chat feature and we'll read those aloud. Please make sure we have your full name and affiliation and which item and number and name. There is also a time designated for general public comment at the end of the meeting. This meeting is being recorded, and after the meeting ends, the archived audio and video will be available via the Commission's website. Regarding voting, because we are now back in person, a roll call vote is no longer necessary on every item. So we'll be going back to the all in favor say aye and all opposed say no format. We will do a roll call vote as needed. Any committee members have any questions about the protocols? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to item 2. Item 2 is the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda for the May 2022 meeting? Please remember to unmute your microphone when speaking. So moved by member Tchaikovsky. Is there a second? Second by member Jason Lee. All right. Any further discussion? Any additions? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item 3 is the approval of the minutes of the prior meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the March 2022 meeting? It would be appropriate for any committee member not in attendance at that meeting to abstain. Motion by member Forbes. Is there a second? Second by member Belatayo. Any corrections or changes? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item 4. Item 4 is the co-chair and member reports. Any members have anything they wish to share? Serious? 2 years? Seriously? Nothing? Member Balatayo.
For this month of May, I've been invited to speak about my experiences as an immigrant in the Diversity and Equity Action Committee in Culver City.
That's wonderful.
Nice.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So the theme is about the joys and challenges of being an Asian American first generation immigrant.
Oh, that's wonderful.
That's good.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Member Morrison.
Well, first, good to be back and see everyone. And I just want to report that, as a high school teacher, things are finally back to normal. Campuses, students are maskless and back in their seats. It was a bit of a struggle, as I'm sure you know, over the last couple of years, but we seem to be back to normal and doing well. So that's good news.
Yeah, great to hear. Everybody's going to be back in so-called normal, whatever level that is now. But yeah, it's great to see. Yeah, Member Tchaikovsky.
I was going to say something similar. Also, teaching high school, I can't summarize how transformational it was to see kids' faces, to see them smile, to see their, to understand what they were thinking about, to recognize them. They tend to look fairly similar in hoodies with masks and, universal black outfits. So, I mean, it's just been like a gift, and it's just been amazingly encouraging to recognize that despite COVID, despite the learning loss and all these other labels, kids are still trying to succeed. That said, they are up against a lot. And I just, as a teacher of math and social sciences this year, US history, the writing deficit is huge, and it is a deficit. There are things kids need to accelerate through their senior year if they're going to be prepared to communicate with other adults once they graduate in a way that they should be empowered to do so. So I would predict that's the same. I mean, how do you learn to read if you can't see lips moving, right? Like, this is a major challenge for us, and we have to confront it in terms of acknowledging what schools and educators are doing differently, because we'll need to roll differently. It's normal, but these are conditions that require us to do exceptional things in a short period of time. So that's my comment.
Yeah, it's a great comment. I'd like to acknowledge the efforts of everyone around the table as teachers and all of our colleagues out in the field for staying with the profession over the great challenges that we've all encountered. And as we know colleagues and friends who have left the profession just from the fact of maybe finding it overwhelming and finding this is a good time to retire or find something else to do. And I just commend everyone who has stayed with the program as teachers to provide this instruction for our students over the very challenging times. And though you may not hear it very often, we know we often hear more from the bad than we do from the good. We can't acknowledge the fact that the students are appreciative of our efforts. So again, just a shout out to everybody who's been able to stay with it. So this is a teacher appreciation week? Oh, wow. I don't have something in my mailbox when I get back. I don't know. Yeah, Member Forbes.
Well, thank you. I think it's really fitting that we started with a K12 report, because really that's why we're all here, keeping our focus on the kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
But from the IHE world, from the teacher prep world, one thing that I'm happy to report, some of us were talking this morning that our application numbers sadly were down this year. And I think that was a trend across the state that, we talked about it at some previous meetings. But I think our yield, in other words, the people who are accepting offers of admission, is actually higher. So the people who, at least in our program, applied seem to be serious about it. And, that's exciting, so we're ready to start off with almost the same number of students we had this year at UCSD anyway, which, is encouraging. And our cohort this year also had a lot, things are not the same. They hadn't had experience in the classrooms, many of them at all, since they were in high school, or hopefully not elementary school, but they were a little bit overwhelmed when it came time to accept an internship or even start their student teaching. But right about now, I'm starting to see the confidence building and the desire to keep teaching. So we haven't lost anybody, at least not in my program. And that's exciting news as well. They're starting to get their TPA results back. And I think that's, helping them also to feel like they're going to make it. So,
yeah, the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
I know from my institution at Chapman, we were going to triple the amount of students within the music cohort as far as the MAT program from what we have this year moving on starting in the summer. So we're tripling the numbers. So I think we're going, may not seem like much, we're going from 5 to 15, which is a significant increase. So we're finding that the despite all the challenges, at least in some areas that teachers have encountered, appreciative that the students have not given up and they haven't given up hope and they're coming into the profession. So I'm hoping to hear the same report from everybody. So that's good to know. Any other member wish to share? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to staff reports. Item 5.
I know we don't have a lot of time before our first folks have joined us, so maybe we can split this a little bit.
Sure.
I want to at least mention a couple of personnel issues as we go through. So first, I want to thank, I want to acknowledge how much work Erin Sullivan does. I know she's like, what? But she has served in 2, maybe even 3 roles over the past couple of months. I don't know if you know, we had a vacancy on our Office of Governmental Relations, and she has that experience in her background. And so she was sort of asked to fill in that. So she has kept her feet in both worlds for 3 months now, I think, or 4 months. I can't even remember. Doing a lot of work, not only in accreditation, but then also, bill tracking, analyzing bills, attending budget hearings, everything you can imagine. So she's really been working super hard. So I just wanted to acknowledge what a super person she is, and that she's really extraordinary. So I also want to thank Sarah Solari, who kind of helped fill in as Erin was pulled in other directions, and Sarah helped, review all of the accreditation reports and get this agenda ready. As well as, just really helping with the teams. As teams had questions, she would answer questions at night, like Erin and I always do. So really want to acknowledge Sarah. And I know she's in the building, she's just not in the room. So I wanted to thank her for that. I know that Tim, do you want to come up real quick and just say hello? Tim, I think said hello to you at your last meeting, but he's here in person. So I wanted to, come on up. Come to the table. Just wanted everybody to meet him in person. Any place. Yeah. You can sit here and just to say hello, just for a second, and just say, so Tim is one of our newest consultants. You want to say hi and give us a little bit about your background. I think that you talked to them a little bit last time, but you're here in person, so say it again.
Yeah. I just thought I was going to wait. Let me take a deep breath. Good morning, committee members. Yes, I'm Tim Weeks, and I'm a new consultant. Although it feels like I've been here for years now, but it's been 6 months, I think. I'm the 15th, but it feels like a much longer. So I do come here with a background in mathematics and computer science, and I'm working on a computer science supplementary authorization grant. And then prior to coming here, I worked in a teacher prep program teaching math methods for 4 years. And then my previous career was actually in finance and programming. So broad experience. And I just want to say, actually, Jake's here in the room now. So I just want to say thanks to Jake for all of his support. And I got a really corny joke. Whenever I needed help, like a good neighbor, Jake was there. So it's always
That's great. Thank you. Thanks, Tim. It feels so strange to be here in person. So I wanted to make sure that you all got to see Tim.
I just want to put Co-Chair Freley on notice now that the first corny joke has been logged.
Exactly. Let's see, just a couple of other little things. This is Bob Lox's last meeting, so you'll see him here. He's retiring and moving to St. Louis to be with his grandkids. So you'll see him a couple times today. Yeah, so make sure you wish him well. And then I just want to also, I see Lynette in the crowd. Some of you remember Lynette. She was a staff member for a very long time. I dragged her back in to the role of a retired annuitant for us, and she's working on a lot of regulations because we are really backlogged in regulations. So she just completed the package for the 1 TPA, so 1 TPA per candidate, regardless of how many credentials that you are seeking. So she's been really helpful with that, and we have lots of work for her to do. So thank you, Lynette. Yeah, it's fun to be back. I think maybe any of our rest of our stuff do we want to?
I can absolutely wait.
Okay.
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
wait.
so we can wait and come back. Okay, so we'll wait and come back for the rest of the report when we have time.
Okay, great thing.
Very
And we'll get a chance to acknowledge again the efforts of the staff. The staff phenomenal, as you all know, especially over the last couple of years, just working and keeping us all on top of things. But just the amount of effort that everybody has been doing, we just can't thank you enough for what you do, not only for the committee, but what you do for the entire state of California and all the institutions and teachers and the students. And so again, heartfelt thanks on that.
Thank you very
Absolutely.
much.
All right, item 6, program approval recommendations. This section is for action. There is one institution with a program for approval, Los Angeles Pacific University Preliminary Multiple Subject Intern Program. Joining us today from Los Angeles Pacific University is Gordon Jorgensen, Assistant Dean, who is here to answer any questions you may have about the proposed program. This is an institution with an approved preliminary multiple subject credential program, and they are proposing to add an intern pathway. Are there any recusals on this item? All right, seeing none, would the institutional representative like to say anything regarding the proposed program? And joining us by Zoom.
Actually, I'd just like to say hi to Lynette. She helped us get started back in the process a few years ago. Really appreciated all the work that she did with us. And then obviously Hart, he's been awesome too. We essentially are just wanting to add this pathway because we have a number of students who are in program now who've been sharing with us that places where they work are interested in hiring them as interns. And so we want to be able to have a pathway to accommodate that for them.
All right, thank you. Any committee members have any questions or comments you wish to offer? Member Tchaikovsky.
Cool, because this is an area where we need teachers, obviously throughout the state. I guess from my experience as a person working with interns in the past, I was just wondering, what do you anticipate being your interns' most important need for support as they are doing this already challenging work of being a first-year teacher while also earning their credential? What do you envision your people needing most in terms of help at the site or from your institution?
Honestly, I think the most important thing for them it has to do with psychological support. You know, it's already, I tell these candidates all the time, you know, I was a teacher, assistant principal, a principal, professor at the university, dean, assistant dean rather. And the hardest job I ever had was being a teacher. And the thing that I love about LAPU is that we have supports built in. They all have a success coach that walks alongside them while they're in our program. They obviously have the instructors that walk alongside them. They'll have clinical supervisors supporting them. And we look at support for our students, all students. It's not just the candidates in this program. It's kind of a three-pronged community approach. We want them to feel like there's always someone available if they need help, regardless of what that is, whether that's on an assignment or whether that's with the student teaching placement or an intern teaching placement. But we want to have the ability for them to never go home or sit back in their classroom at lunch and say to themselves, I don't even know what to do here. We refuse to accept that as a question from one of our candidates. So I'm really proud of the supports that we have built in place for them to shepherd them along in this process, because as you all know, it's a really tough position to be a teacher in today's day and age. It's probably tougher than it's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very well stated. Definitely challenges, and glad that you're able to offer another program. Any other committee member have any comment or question? All right, this is an action item. Is there a motion to approve Los Angeles Pacific University Preliminary Multiple Subject Intern Program? So moved by Member Lee. Is there a second? Second by Member Balatayo. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and thank you very much, Dr. Jorgen, for joining us. We know we put you on hold. We appreciate your patience waiting for us. Thank you.
No problem at all.
All right, thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Item 7 is a report of program status changes. This item is divided into 2 parts. Part 1 includes items for action by the COA, which include requests to withdraw, requests to reactivate inactive programs, and or requests to add a new content area to an existing program. Part 2 provides information on programs that have transitioned to revised program standards and programs that have elected to change to inactive status. These items are for notification only and require no action by the COA. Part 1, sections A, B, and C. Section A is program withdrawals, and Section A is for action. There are 4 program sponsors withdrawing a total of 5 programs, and they are Cal State University Long Beach Designated Subjects Career Technical Education Program, effective July 1st, 2022. Chapman University Specialist Teaching Bilingual Authorization Spanish Program, effective May 5, 2022. National University Specialist Teaching Reading and Literacy Added Authorization Program, effective May 5th, 2022. And Education Specialist Early Childhood Special Education Added Authorization Program, effective May 5th, 2022. And Teachers College of San Joaquin, Single Subject Industrial and Technology Education Program, effective May 6th, 2022. This section is for action. Are there any recusals? Is there a motion? So the motion at this point would be go ahead and accept all the withdrawals as noted. Member Force.
I move we accept all the withdrawals as indicated.
All right, thank you. Is there a second? Second by Member Tchaikovsky. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Section B, programs requesting reactivation. We have no programs requesting reactivation at this time. Section C, adding a new content area. The United States University has requested to hold new single subject content areas in art, health, science, dance, and theater. Staff has reviewed the requested documentation to ensure that the program modifications address all required competencies. Joining us from the United States University are Rebecca Wardlow, PhD, Dean, College of Education, and Dr. Joanna Simpson, Program Director, Associate Professor, College of Education, to answer any questions you may have about the programs. Will the institutional representative like to say anything about the program?
Good morning. This is Rebecca Wardlow. I'm the Dean for the College of Education, and we're just delighted to have the opportunity to expand our single subject offerings and tap into the expertise of our faculty and meet the needs of potential candidates who have requested opportunity to pursue these areas.
Thank you, Dr. Wardlow. Dr. Simpson, are you there as well? Would you wish to offer any comment?
I am here, and I just wanted to say special thank you to Jake Schuler and the team at the CTC that really helped to guide us with adding these specific subject areas for our candidates that are looking to get those credentials.
Great, thank you so much. Any committee members have any questions to the representatives from the United States University? Member Tchaikovsky.
So not really a question, but looking at these subject areas, you know, I think what you're going to be doing here is becoming really good at performance assessment, which is going to influence other programs that you offer credentials in. So I think that has a lot of promise. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Tchaikovsky. Any other committee member? All right, this section is for action. Is there a motion to approve the 4 new content areas from United States University Single Subject Credential Program? Member Tchaikovsky.
I move that we approve the addition of these content areas to USU.
All right, so moved. Is there a second? Second by Member Hillis. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries. Congratulations, and thank you, Dr. Wardlow. Thank you, Dr. Simpson.
Thank you.
All right, have a good day. Moving on to part 2. Part 2 sections D and E are for notification purposes only and no action is required. Section D is for programs transitioning, and there are no programs requesting to transition at this time. Section E for programs moving to inactive status. And again, this is for notification only. No action is required. There is one program sponsor moving 6 programs to inactive status from Mills College. And just a certain note is that this request from Mills College was presented initially at our March 2022 meeting. And there is a correction to the effective date, which was adjusted from July 1st of 2022 to May 5th of 2022. Okay. Moving on, item 8. Item 8 is the initial program approval for new program sponsors. Consultant Hart Boyd will present this action item. Folsom Cordova Unified School District was recently granted provisional approval by the Commission as a program sponsor and is now seeking approval from the COA to offer a teacher induction credential program. With us today are Folsom Cordova Unified School District representatives Mindy Ardress, Teacher Induction Coordinator, and Dr. Jim Huber, Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Curriculum and Instruction. Anyone need to recuse himself? I see none. Mr. Boyd, would you please begin?
Yes, thank you. This item presents Folsom Cordova Unified School District's responses to the Teacher Induction Program standards for the committee's consideration and possible approval, as we are in stage 4 of the initial institutional approval process. A team of 2 qualified reviewers collaborated on a review of Folsom Cordova's responses and came to a consensus on a final finding of aligned for all program standards. As a reminder, at the conclusion of stage 3, Folsom Cordova was granted provisional approval by the Commission at its June 2021 meeting. It is important to highlight that provisional approval only authorizes an institution to offer educator preparation programs, but it is the determination of the COA which decides whether or not a specific program is approved. You may find hyperlinks to the final submission and reviewer feedback on page 2 of this item. Again, joining us today are Mindy Andrus, Teacher Induction Coordinator, and Dr. Jim Huber, Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Curriculum and Instruction. They will both be available to answer any programmatic questions you may have, and staff is available to answer any process questions. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Mr. Boyd. We now invite the institutional representatives to briefly comment on the proposed program.
Good morning, this is Mindy Andrus. My computer just decided to shut down right in the middle of this meeting. So I apologize, I'm on as Lisa Baca, my assistant. I hope you're able to hear me.
You're cutting in and out, but we can still hear you. Yep.
Okay, great, thank you so much. I do apologize for the inconvenience. And thank you for changing my name. We're very excited to be in this stage of seeking accreditation for Folsom Cordova Unified School District. I'd like to share with you Jim Huber, who is our unit head and our advisor for our teacher induction program. We want to thank Hart and also Lynette, who got us started, but they've been a great support. As far as moving forward with our program, we're very excited about the opportunity, the potentials we have for having our own program and being able to work with the teachers and bring them forward as with a clear credential as we move through our process of teacher induction.
I'm sorry, Ms. Andrews, we lost you. We don't know if you are still with us, or if you maybe concluded your comments. Yeah, it seemed. Okay, thank you. We appreciate it. It's unfortunate we're fading in and out, but I presume you said wonderful things about the program, and you're thankful for the opportunity to present this before the committee. But we do appreciate that. We get the gist of what you're saying, so we do appreciate your comments and going through the efforts to be with us today. Dr. Huber, would you wish to offer any comments?
Only that, again, to Mindy's point, we're very enthusiastic about the program. We had a celebration ceremony just the other evening for our students that are processing through the program, and we have an enthusiastic commitment from those faculty members that are acting as mentors. And so we really feel like that we've got the beginnings of a really strong foundational program here at FCUSD.
Great. Thanks, Dr. Huber. This is an opportunity for any members of the COA to offer any comments or questions. All right, seeing none, this is an action item. Is there a motion to approve Folsom Cordova Unified School District's teacher induction program? Motion by Member Morrison.
I move that we accept Folsom program, a new program.
All right. Is there a second? Second by Member Cracer. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. All right. Motion carries. Congratulations, and thanks for joining us, Ms. Andrews, and also Dr. Huber. Appreciate it. Congratulations.
Thank you all.
Have a good day. And also, Mr. Boyd. Sorry, Hart. Oh, I just signed off. Sorry. There we go. All right, good. All right, moving on to item 9 is the discussion of institutions not in compliance with accreditation timelines. Analyst Michelle Bernardo and Aaron Sullivan will present this item.
Yeah, so you will see there's a single institution listed. Pasadena Unified School District still has not submitted their common standards submission, which was due on February 28th. We reported them to you as late also at your last meeting. Cheryl and I did have a conversation with the superintendent earlier this week. We have a better understanding of how we can support them, and we are expecting to receive their submission tomorrow. That has been their dedicated time. So we're looking forward to that.
All right, thanks, Ms. Sullivan. Any further comments at all? Okay. All right, moving on to item 10. Item 10 is a 9:30 time certain. We are a little late. We apologize and appreciate your patience. This is the report of the accreditation team to Antelope Valley Union High School District. Consultant Roxanne Perdue will introduce the item. And joining her is team lead Dr. Barbie Severns and institutional representatives Dr. Lloyd Docwa, Coordinator of Induction and Professional Development, Ben Jefferson, Teacher Induction Mentoring Specialist, and David Rivas, Teacher Induction Mentoring Specialist. Any committee member need to recuse himself? We have one recuser. One recusal, sorry. Chairman Balatayo. Any others? All right, Ms. Perdue, will you please begin?
Thank you, and good morning, committee members. It's great to see all of you in person finally, for some of you, the first time, and to be at the table with you today. The report in front of you today includes findings on the accreditation site visit team to Antelope Valley Union High School District from their visit on February 28th through March 2nd, 2022. Antelope Valley Union High School District currently has a teacher induction program, and their site visit proceeded in accordance with normal virtual site visit protocol, which is the new normal, soon to be changed back to in person at my next January visit. So that's exciting. I'd like to take a moment to thank the teacher induction leadership team, Lloyd, Ben, and David, for their virtual hospitality, their professionalism. We worked together for a full year before the site visit, and they were just phenomenal. Their commitment to their program and to the accreditation system, the process was second to none. So now I'd like to introduce Dr. Barbie Severns, our team lead, who will share the details of our team findings and the report in front of you. Thank you.
Hello, I was just brought in as a panelist and kind of lost connection for a moment there. Good morning, committee members. I'm glad to be here today. And hello again to Ben, David, and Loy. It's nice to see your faces again today. I am pleased to be here today to provide the recommendation of accreditation for the Antelope Valley Union High School District Teacher Induction Program. The induction program provides individual support to each of their candidates in a design that is fully job embedded. They have created a teacher space that supports all teachers and especially provides a setting for interaction for those teachers completing RECA and TPA requirements. Every stakeholder group and individual provided time and thoughtful reflection on their induction program. This made the importance of this program very clear to each of the accreditation team members. By thoughtfully identifying key individuals in a wide variety of departments, the program is assured that anything the candidates may need can be provided. It is clear that their induction program is a high priority to their school district. So thank you, and again, it was a pleasure visiting, and I look forward to meeting you in person at the induction conference next year.
Thank you, Dr. Severns. We now invite the institutional representatives to briefly comment about the visit. We remind you not the time to dispute the team's report, but rather provide any thoughts that you had about the visit itself.
Good morning, committee members. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak at this meeting this morning. The accreditation process is truly a means of self-study for us to identify our strengths and weaknesses or areas for improvement. So we appreciate this opportunity. First, I'd like to thank our consultant, Roxanne Purdue. She was a true leader in leading us with zeal, great zeal and patience, and a strong knowledge base as we prepared for this process. Every step of the way, Roxanne led us with grace, and we appreciated her time and effort. We always look forward to our meetings with her. So thank you, Roxanne. And then I want to thank Barbie. It was truly amazing, very pleasant to work with. She took the time and effort to examine all of her evidence. Both she and her team looked at everything and spoke to all of our educational partners so that they could arrive at the authentic decision. So we really appreciated that. Overall, the experience was pleasant and went smoothly, although it was virtual. And we are very grateful for the time and effort that the team put in to the process. And then finally, I want to thank these two gentlemen who are on the call with me, Ben Jefferson and David Rivas. They are our two full-time mentors who work tirelessly every day to serve our beginning teachers for their retention and success. They, along with their other part-time members, form a true alliance for beginning teachers in our school district and influence the continuous improvement process. Our program thrives on collaboration from various educational partners, and this recommendation is dedicated to all of them.
Thank you, Dr. Dakwa. Gentlemen, would you wish to offer any comment as well?
I just wanted to also.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I just wanted to thank also the site team and for the feedback. It really reinforces what we're trying to do and what we do on a daily basis at Antelope Valley Union High School District. So thank you again, and thank you again, Roxanne.
Yeah, and I would just like to echo everything that Dr. Dakwa and Mr. Jefferson have said, and just really appreciative of the process and of the institution of induction for our beginning teachers. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from committee members? Member Hillis.
First of all, I'd just like to congratulate you on a very impressive report. The one question I've had is I've been thinking about induction these days with new teachers is just the support that you offer in terms of the TPA requirement. And I'm just curious if you could speak a little bit about that, what the challenges of that has been and how you see that going forward.
David, would you like to take that?
Sure, thank you. I think the one thing that's helped us the most is having a close relationship with our IHEs. So we were able to reach out to Cal State Bakersfield and UMass Global in particular, and they offered us lots of support for induction teachers who still need TPA. We have a tradition of offering professional development in our program as much as in our district. Dr. Dakwa also oversees the professional development for our district, and so we were able to establish specific, we call them teacher spaces, and they're collaborative, open time, paid time for teachers to meet with their mentors and go over materials, do any studying for TPAs or even RECA if necessary for ed specialists. And that has been very helpful. As far as challenges, just not being familiar with the specific requirements for TPA, I think that was the initial hurdle. But again, having a close relationship with those IHEs helped us tremendously. So I don't know if there's anything you'd like to add, Ben.
Yes, yeah, I just wanted to say that the HR department offered us additional staff. So we do have a person who supports all of our teachers that still need TPA, and she has taken on the mission to attend all of the relevant seminars and meetings and PDs to help her glean the information that is necessary to support these candidates. And she keeps track of everyone, not just our induction candidates, but also our interns, and meet regularly, follow up and assessments. So that is one way that we're supporting our teachers who still need the TPA.
And if I could add one more thing too, if teachers could not attend Teacher Space, we also had a Google Classroom set up so they could work remotely. And we had a number of resources provided by Cal State Bakersfield and UMass as well that they could access, and whether it was the TPAs or RICA. So if they couldn't make it to Teacher Space in person, they still have access to those resources.
Great, thank you, Will. Member Tchaikovsky.
Yeah, congratulations on your report and visit and program. And I was going to ask a similar question as my colleague here just asked. But it's one of the things I just wanted to highlight about what I learned from your report and from what your comments are just now is that your district and program has been willing to put the human resources where needed. Like if you need support with the TPA, it sounds like there was funding made available to support a person who was expert in that area. And when I read your report, something that jumped out at me as a former induction program manager is this roving sub. You have a roving sub that frees people from classroom instruction to do observations. So that communicates the huge importance of observations, and it puts your money where your mouth is. So yay for you. I think that's awesome. And then just last, a strength that I noticed in here is the very close and detailed articulation you have with important stakeholders, particularly assistant principals. So good on you for connecting the administrators and the leaders at the school to your program and how you are both working together to ensure the success of your new teachers. So pretty impressive stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Member Chick. Yeah, thanks, Member Tchaikovsky. Any other committee member have any comments or questions? This is an action item. Is there a motion by a committee member? Motion by Member Forbes.
I move we accept the recommendation of accreditation for, make sure I get the name, Antelope Valley Union High School District.
Thank you. Is there a second? Member Cracia? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Right. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Dr. Dakwa, Mr. Jefferson, Mr. Rivas, Dr. Severance, and Ms. Purdue. And again, congratulations. Have a great day.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. We're on to item 11. Item 11 is the report of the accreditation team to Hebrew Union College. Consultant Jake Schuler will introduce his item, and he will also be representing team lead Mimi Miller, who unfortunately is unable to join us this morning. We also have institutional representatives, Dr. Bonnie Sharpman, Delight Credential Coordinator, and Coaching and Induction Program Coordinator, as well as Dr. Lauren Applebaum, Delight Director. Anyone need to recuse himself? I see none. Mr. Schuler, please begin.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good to see you in person. And so Mimi Miller called late last night, so she had a family health emergency and still needs to be part of that this morning. So she's really sorry that she couldn't join today. She was actually planning to drive down and be at the meeting this morning, but and I didn't have a chance to let Bonnie and Lauren know that as well last night. But so Mimi had already given me some written comments, so I'll go through those and we'll do our best to answer any questions if there's any from the team. But yeah, so it was a great year working with Bonnie and Lauren, preparing for the site visit. Bonnie and I talked, we had scheduled meetings once a month, but it felt like we talked almost every day. And we got along very well, and it was a pleasure to work with them throughout the year. Okay, so the Hebrew Union College site visit took place from March 21st to 23rd. The visit was conducted entirely via Zoom. We conducted a total of 81 interviews with various stakeholders. And despite being conducted entirely online, the site visit proceeded in accordance with all normal accreditation protocols. Cheryl wanted to make sure I pointed out the posted report, although now I think it's already been updated. Look at that. I just refreshed it.
Thank you to Michelle Bernardo for quick
Yeah.
action.
It said draft like 30 seconds ago, and now it doesn't. Don't forget about that comment. Yeah. Thanks, Michelle. All right. And yeah, so I've got multiple scripts, so pardon me if I'm looking all over the place here. Okay. So again, Dr. Bonnie Scharfman, credential coordinator and induction coordinator, and it's the pronunciation is the Delit school, and we worked as a team to make sure we had the pronunciation down too. That's the term for all of the, and Lauren, Bonnie, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but for all of the educational programs that are focused on adults in Jewish day schools, I believe that's the right way to think about it. It's called the Delit program. So Bonnie is the credential coordinator and induction coordinator for those programs, and Dr. Lauren Applebaum is the director of those programs. As I said, Bonnie and Lauren were fantastic to work with throughout the year, and they were extremely thorough in their preparation for the visit. I'd also like to thank our team members. So as we mentioned, Dr. Mimi Miller, who was our team lead, Doctors Robin Duncan, Kelly Daly, and Anita Flemington were our other team members. I'll now stop here and turn it over to Mimi's script to talk about the visit and give the findings and the accreditation recommendation. So let me switch over to my Mimi Miller hat. Right. Let's see. Here it is. Okay. And I'm just going to read it word for word for now, just to make sure I capture all her thoughts. So before reporting the findings for program and common standards, I would like to report that at the visit, the team heard consistent positive remarks regarding the high quality of teacher preparation at Delit. Employers uniformly describe Delit graduates as exceptionally well prepared, reflective practitioners who embrace and model inquiry and critical thinking. Delit candidates remarked on the strong sense of community and support that they receive, and employers noted that candidates carried the spirit of collaboration forward to create classroom communities where each child is honored. One employer commented, "The program doesn't just teach how to teach, it cultivates how to be a good human being." It's a pretty strong words, and that's the exact same sentiment I heard and other team members throughout the visit. Okay, so now to summarize the findings on program standards and common standards. All program standards were met for the preliminary multiple subject program and the teacher induction program. Common standards 1, 2, 3, and 5 were fully met. Common standard 4, which is focused on continuous improvement, was met with concerns. And the rationale, so what Mimi wrote here was, evidence gathered from documents and interviews suggests that the unit collects and uses some data to engage in improvement and make appropriate modifications at both the unit and program levels. However, there was inconsistent evidence to support a comprehensive continuous improvement process. In addition, while both the unit and its programs regularly collect data, and some of that data is analyzed and used to improve programs and their services, evidence is inconsistent that data are systematically used to improve programs and their services. Overall recommendation. On the basis of the report, the team makes a recommendation of accreditation with a 7th-year report. The review team recommends that the institution provide a 7th-year report within 1 year of the date of the COA to provide an update on Common Standard 4, which was met with concerns for the reasons stated above. In this report, the expectation would be that Hebrew Union College present a systematic and comprehensive plan for using data for continuous improvement and to provide examples of data-informed improvements that they have made as they've begun to enact this plan. Okay. So if the committee recommends that accreditation with 7th-year report, it would be me as Jake Schuler, the consultant, working with Hebrew Union College throughout the year. So I'll stop there and turn it back over to you, Bob.
All right, thank you. We now invite institutional representatives to briefly comment about the visit. I remind you that it's not a time to dispute the team's report, but rather provide any thoughts that you may have about the visit itself. And good to see you, Bonnie.
Hello, thank you for giving us a chance to speak. And Jake, thank you for wearing both hats. We're sorry to hear about Mimi's family emergency. I want to also compliment Jake on his excellent pronunciation of DELET, which is an acronym meaning door, like a doorway to teaching. We echo the warm feelings and had such a wonderful, this is not Bonnie's first time with the process, but this is my first time. This is my 4th year at Hebrew Union College. And it was really a true pleasure, I can say honestly, to work with Jake all year and to work with Mimi and Robin and Kelly and Anita throughout the process. As teachers, I feel like we always crave this kind of feedback as teachers ourselves. And so we are really excited to continue running our programs and to spend this next year, especially thinking about how to move our use of data and feedback and information and make it more comprehensive. Particularly excited as the hopefully state opens up and things become a little safer to travel. We'd love to be able to collaborate and connect with other small, very small programs in the state and think about how they sort of use data in a comprehensive way, even when the data is small, given our small student population. So we're really excited about this opportunity and want to thank Jake and our visit team for all of their input and all of their work.
Great, thank you. Any other institutional representative wish to make a comment? Dr. Sharkman, do you wish to make a comment at all?
Not at this time, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. We now invite the committee members. Any questions or comments that you may have? Member Chakosky.
Yeah, so congratulations on the report and the adventures afoot. I wanted just to make a suggestion again as a former induction program manager. As you're thinking about addressing the Common Standard 4 areas of growth, it might be helpful to think about the comment that Jake made about the excerpted quote about teaching people how to be good human beings in addition to teaching them to be teachers. And then just think to yourself, like, what is it about those two things that can help you to kind of synthesize the various pieces of data that you're collecting? Are there kind of questions related to that? For example, dealing with a teacher's ability, I'm just kind of making something up here, a teacher's ability to address, personal or social emotional needs of students. How does that relate to both being a good person and being a good teacher? What are the dimensions of humanity that clearly you're focused on at your institution? That might be a way to go about kind of thinking about how to pull in all these various pieces of data that obviously exist into a kind of coherent evaluation system.
Any other committee member have a question or comment? Member Morrison.
Hi, again, congratulations on the report. I have a question. This is purely my personal ignorance, I have to say, and maybe you can clear things up for me. When I was reading this, I was trying to get a picture of, I know this is a small program, but how it works. I was looking at your recruitment of candidates, and I couldn't quite understand who is you recruiting. Is there a religious requirement for the people who come into your program, and how does that work? And again, I'm just trying to get this clear in my head how the program works here.
Thank you for that question. It's my 4th year, and sometimes I feel like I might still be trying to get my head around it too. So I appreciate the question. There's not a religious requirement for candidates in either the induction or the credential program. Our program requires, originally for the credential in particular, that candidates are engaged in a Jewish day school community. So in a school sponsored by a Jewish community, the candidates themselves do not need to be members of the Jewish culture or faith. The recruitment has really shifted, particularly in these last few years, as everything has turned upside down. And one thing that has turned into sort of the biggest source of our program are folks who had been serving as assistants or after school aides or recess monitors, or during the pandemic, pod coordinators, or people who had been connected in some way to a Jewish day school at some point and then really fell in love with the idea of teaching. You heard people speak about, or you heard Jake briefly reference the alumni network, which is very strong. And so often someone will say, there's this wonderful program. So there's a lot of word of mouth recruiting. So people who have been, again, tangentially related in one of these communities, and then feel like they're ready to sort of step up and explore teaching and pursue a credential.
Thank you.
Thank you for clarification. Any further questions or comments on committee members? Right, this is an action item. Is there a motion from a committee member? Motion by member Hillis.
I'd like to move that we would accept the recommendation for accreditation with the 7-year report for Hebrew Union College.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second by member Balatayo. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. All right, motion carries unanimously. So thank you, Dr. Scharfman, Dr. Applebaum, and thank you, Mr. Schuler. And we hope that all is well with Dr. Miller and his family and her family. So thank you. So congratulations. All right, have a good day. Moving on to item 12 is the report of the accreditation team to Claremont Graduate University, excuse me. Consultants Punam Betty and Iori Osamwanyi will introduce this item, and joining them today is team lead Brad Damon and institutional representatives Dr. Eddie Pardita, or Edie? Eddie, thank you. Eddie Pardita, Director of Teacher Education, and Dr. DeLacy Ganley, Dean of the School of Educational Studies. Anyone need to recuse himself? Seeing none, Ms. Betty, will you please begin?
Absolutely. Good morning, committee members. First of all, can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, sounds perfect. So item 12 presents the accreditation site visit team's report for Claremont Graduate University. This site visit occurred virtually this year from February 27th through March 2nd, and nearly 150 interviews were conducted. We would like to thank the institution for hosting this site visit. A special shout out to Eddie for quickly addressing all requests from the team, including requests for additional documentation or shifting the interview schedule or requests for more interviews. We're also very grateful to everyone that was involved in the process, including DeLacy, Melanie, David, Sheila, and just everyone at Claremont that worked together in preparation for this site visit. I would also like to thank my co-consultant, Iori Osamwani. Iori's steady and calm approach to the process of facilitating a site visit was incredibly helpful to the institution, to the site visit team, and it was definitely something that I appreciated. So with that, let me actually turn this part of the presentation over to Iori to say a few words.
Thanks, Punam. It was also seamless working with Punam on this particular visit. She was ever ready to provide support to the institution and the site visit team, and she stayed very organized throughout the process. We would also like to thank the site visit team for their flexibility and for the time they dedicated to the visit. The team carried out their charge of completing a careful review of documentation and incorporating information gathered from interviews to determine alignments to the standards. We're also grateful for our team lead, Brad Damon, for asking critical questions with which to engage the team and for ensuring everyone's voice on the team was heard. So with that, we will turn the presentation over to Brad to walk through the team's findings.
All right. Well, hi, everybody. And on behalf of the team, I would like to thank Punam and Iori for their excellent guidance and support throughout the team's review of Claremont Graduate University's credential programs. It was really wonderful. So just so appreciate both of you very much. So thank you. Claremont Graduate University, I'd like to share some things that were really evident to the team that really stood out to everyone during the visit. And I'd start with the strong culture of collaboration within the unit at Claremont Graduate University. There is a strong student-centric approach And it was found that all programs utilize a critical social justice framework, and faculty appeared really passionate and dedicated about this framework. Faculty were found to meet regularly, both formally and informally, to discuss candidate feedback, community needs, areas for program improvement. And it was really evident that mid-course evaluations were consistently used to ensure candidate feedback was considered when making improvements to course delivery and design, which proved especially important during the pandemic, as Claremont Graduate University had been a small boutique private university that had really focused on in-person instruction, boasting an 8-to-1 student to faculty ratio, which is almost unheard of these days. So a really private kind of student-focused program, and then they had to shift the operation to online. And so it was really clear that these mid-course evaluations were really relied upon heavily to adjust online instruction to make sure that they were meeting candidate needs. And as a result, they were able to really make this transition a success. So now going forward, now that they've been able to make this transition, one of the things that was brought to the team's attention is there's a plan to continue to deliver online the credential program so that they can continue to expand their geographic reach in the state of California. So in addition, the strong focus on social justice was a hot topic of discussion within the School of Education. And it was noted at the time by the school that their tuition rate was relatively high compared to other credential programs. And it was recommended that action be taken to reduce the tuition rate. This was brought out through the School of Ed to the university's leadership, and they decided to significantly reduce tuition rates in order to better serve the candidates for the state of California, but also really as part of their dedication to social justice. And so I know they're hopeful that this change will also perhaps increase student enrollment, which really it has been relatively low in their program. So to give you a feel for this, in 2020 to 2021, there were 10 candidates that were recommended for multiple subject credentials, 27 candidates for single subject credentials, 5 for mild to moderate credentials, 2 for moderate severe, and 4 for teacher induction. And so those were completers, and active enrolled candidates for 21-22 were 12 for the multiple subject program, 33 for single subject, 2 for the ed specialist mild mod program, 3 for the mod severe, and 10 for the teacher induction. I think these numbers are important because it speaks also to how the program provides strong wraparound services. They are very connected with their students, and there is a lot of formal and informal discussion that goes on around that. So with all of that said, the team found all common standards were met, all preconditions were met, all program standards were met for the preliminary multiple and single subject programs, and for the preliminary ed specialist mild moderate. There were, for the moderate severe ed specialist program, 2 standards that were met for concern, and that was standard 4, assessment program and planning and instruction, and program standard 5, moderate severe specialty program standard for movement, mobility, sensory, and specialized healthcare. There were also all standards were found to be met for their teacher induction program, with the exception of program standard 4, which was qualification, selection, and training of mentors. So the team had asked that with this recommendation that the program within 1 year address these stipulations, and is recommending at this time that basically we would do accreditation with stipulations for Claremont Graduate University. And I'd just like to open it up for questions or comments.
All right, thank you, Dr. Damon. We now invite institutional representatives to briefly comment about the visit. We remind you this is not a time to dispute the team's report, but rather provide any thoughts that you may have regarding the visit itself.
Great. My name is DeLacy Camley, and I'm the Dean at Claremont Graduate University, and I just want to express our thanks to the Commission, our support team from the Commission, and our site visit review team All were incredibly helpful. I think the characteristic that Poonam gave of calm was really spot on, but not only calm, but also engaged, and very clear communication. So we always felt that we understood what the team needed and could be responsive. And I think more than anything, that was just so affirming when the site visit review team was there, is we kept thinking, they get us. I think they really get us. And that was just so nice to sort of be with people that could see what we were trying to do, understood it, understood the value of it. And that was really just empowering. And I always find that the accreditation process is a feedback loop that is incredibly important to us. So we're always pleased to engage in that because it affirms one's reality. And like, oh, we think we're strong in this area. Ah, yes, echo back, we are. Or this is an area of need. Yeah, okay. It just kind of affirmed. So again, thank you to everybody for engaging us and being so clear in the report on where to move forward on. Thank you. I'd like to pass the baton to Eddie Partita, who is the director of the Department of Teacher Education.
Thank you, DeLacy. Once again, my name is Eddie Partita, and I'm the proud director of a dynamic, diverse, and incredibly talented scholar familia that we also call teacher education here at Claremont Graduate University. I'm proud because over the past 4 years, our small but mighty team has embarked on a wayfinding journey of sorts to answer the question of what it means for this particular group at this particular time to prepare California teachers for equity, excellence, and integrity. And it's through this work that we've recommitted to strive to enact a critical social justice mission that includes, celebrates, empowers, and educates all students from all backgrounds, communities, so they can achieve in school and beyond. And during this time, we interrogated all facets of our operations, our curriculum, to ensure fidelity with our critical social justice and anti-racist stance. And some highlights from those efforts include engaging faculty in study groups, developing core competencies for teaching, revising curriculum and syllabi, developing best practices for recruiting diverse candidates, redesigning interview protocols, hiring diverse faculty and staff, cutting tuition in half, and securing a $6 million Department of Education grant to fund living stipends to support candidates from any economic background to pursue residency pathways, and not to mention doing all of this work, much of this work, while also supporting our candidates and each other through a global pandemic. So I'm doubly proud because the site visit report presented here today accurately represents and validates our ongoing work, our strengths, as well as our challenges. And I'm here to affirm that we are committed to continue to refine and improve in all areas, but especially in those included in this report. To address concerns raised by the review regarding our preliminary special education mod severe standards 4 and 5, we have sought support from our colleagues at the California Educator Preparation Innovation Collaborative, or CalEPIC. CalEPIC is a new teacher preparation transformation collaborative that was developed by the Thompson Policy Institute on Disability at Chapman University and through funding from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And CGU is one of 5 member institutions that were selected in 2021 to be part of this project. CalEPIC supports us by hosting monthly network improvement convenings that bring colleagues from its 5 member institutions together to share best ideas, practices, and innovations in teacher prep. And while our special education faculty have already begun to revise their core syllabi, assignments, and assessments to thoroughly address the report stipulations, the network improvement convenings will help our team, which is very small, engage and learn from and get feedback from our special education colleagues from the other institutions. So our goal is to have our core syllabi, assignments, and rubrics revised by July 31st to be implemented in fall of 22. And we look forward to sharing our revisions and materials with the committee well ahead of the 1-year kind of time frame. And with regard to the concerns raised around induction, the department has already begun developing a series of training modules that will be used to orient and support our current ISPs. These materials will specifically address the specifically adult learning theory, which was called out as something that needed to be included in that professional development or that onboarding and support for ISPs. We expect these materials will be developed by July 31st and be used with all ISPs new and current beginning fall of 22. So we look forward to sharing our revisions with those materials with the committee as well. Lastly, once again, I'd like to thank Brad Damon and the site visit team, our CTC consultants, Poonam Iori, committee, and the committee for giving us this opportunity to respond and share our updates. We truly enjoyed the process and all the support and feedback we received. I also would be remiss if I did not acknowledge and publicly thank our dean, our faculty, our staff, students, alumni, and district partners who participated in this site visit. Thank you so much. I'm humbled to be able to work and communicate with so many inspiring and dedicated educators. Thank you all.
Thank you, Eddie.
Thank you, Dr. Perdita. Your words are inspiring, and both you and Dr. Ganley, thank you for your words. It's contagious. Your excitement is contagious. So thank you for that. This is now an opportunity for questions or comments from committee members. Member Tchaikovsky.
Yay. So I'm a Claremont Graduate School alumna. That's how old I am. So yay. I just wanted to just note that while there were 140 interviews at the visit, only 23 of those people were either candidates or completers. And I know you have a relatively small program, but I guess I was just wondering why there were so few of those critical voices present during your visit.
I guess
because there were more, you had more enrolled. I mean, I looked at, you went through all those numbers. So just curious about that.
Yeah, it wasn't from lack of trying, that's for sure. And I think that for us, what that doesn't capture is all of the alumni that are part of our mentor-teacher pool. A lot of our mentor-teacher pool are also completers and alumni, so that would kind of, that they're not necessarily included in the count there for program completers. But we did have a challenge in having folks sign up for time slots where they're current teachers. Obviously, their attention is on their teaching and working full time, and trying to get folks to sign up was a challenge. I think we were able to rally and get most of our current candidates to be interviewed. And so we would have liked more for sure, but I think there was it was a challenge for us.
Well, according to your roster, there were something like 10 current candidates. So you have significantly more than those. I guess I'm just asking because I think as a member of this group, it's really important to me that the dominant voice in, collecting data for these kinds of reports are in fact participants in the program.
I thought the number was higher. I would, I thought we had a few more than, I didn't think it was 10, but maybe I can be wrong on that part.
Well, thank you regardless. Claremont.
Sorry.
Thank you, Member Tchaikovsky. Any other committee member? Member Force.
Well, first of all, congratulations on meeting the vast majority of standards. And then I'm excited about your plans for how you're going to address the special education standards in the process of transitioning to new standards. So congratulations on that. I had one question I noticed that about the report. I noticed that on page 11, even though all of the standards for multiple and singles, preliminary multiple and single were met, there's a recommendation, and the recommendation, it's in the next to the last paragraph. It says the first part of the sentence is about the literacy and methods course. Mm-hmm. And then it says, it is recommended that coursework be targeted and strengthened in relation to supporting the specific language needs of students whose first language is English. And I wondered if that was a typo, if it should say whose first language is not English, or if your default mode somehow is geared toward meeting the needs of English learners. So I was just curious about that.
Yeah,
sentence.
I'm pretty sure that's a typo that many of us missed. And thank you for.
I understand how that goes. I was just curious because it was not, it stood out to me because I'm not used to reading that sentence.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Member Forbes. Any other committee member? This is an action item. Is there a motion? Member Taylor.
I move that the committee accept the recommendation for accreditation with stipulations for Claremont Graduate University.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second by Member Morrison. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us, Dr. Pardita, Dr. Ganley. Thank you for your work, Dr. Damon, and as always, Ms. Azamwani and Ms. Betty. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We do have another one coming up at 10:30, but break, a 5-minute stretch break. Let's do that and come back. How about if we are ready to reconvene at 10:35? All right, thank you. All right, if committee members can take their seats, please, we'll continue. I'd like to reconvene our meeting. We're looking at item 13 now. Item 13 is a report of the accreditation team to William S. Hart Union High School District. Consultant Gabe Roby will introduce the item, and she is joined by team lead Rhonda Munoz and institutional representatives Aaron Davis, program director, and Dr. Michael Vieira, assistant superintendent of human resources. Anyone need to recuse himself? Seeing none, Ms. Roby, will you please begin?
Thank you very much. I still don't see that Dr. Vieira has been elevated to panelist, so if Cheyenne would be so kind to elevate him as well. I must admit, I'm a little jealous when I hear all of you say what nice it is to be back in the room together, but perhaps in the future I'll get there too. For today, it seemed more prudent to stay here. Thank you, Cheyenne. The site visit for William S. Hart Union High School District took place at the end of March on the 28th to the 30th. They were fantastic hosts. Even though it was a virtual meeting at the time, we talked to 162 of their important constituent groups and had a great time. So we thank them for their hosting duties. A 4-member team led by Rhonda Munoz reviewed documents, they examined evidence, they interviewed many. They were very diligent in their work, for which I thank each one of them, and were able to have a great confidence in the accreditation findings and recommendation that they've made. The visit itself followed all of the protocols found in the handbook. There were no unusual conditions besides being virtual, but that's sort of been the normal lately. And I'd like to turn it over to Rhonda Munoz, our team lead, for the actual report.
Good morning. I'm Rhonda Munoz, the team lead for the William S. Hart Unified High School District Induction Program site visit. And it is affectionately referred to as Hart Unified and the Hart Induction Program. So first, I'd like to start off by thanking a few people who were instrumental for our visit. So definitely our CTC consultant, Gay Roby, who guided and supported us throughout the visit and was there by a quick text and able to answer our questions as we had them going along. Also the team members, Gina Smith, Karen Rock, and Joseph Frescatori, who they all worked very diligently before, during, and during the site visit, very thoughtful. In fact, we met several times before the site visit started, and they were very flexible with their schedules. So great team. And then finally, kudos and many thanks to Aaron Davis, the induction director, and Mary Delgado, his administrative assistant. They were instrumental, obviously, but they were so well planned and organized, and just ensured that this virtual site visit went really smooth. They were on it, and again, just a quick phone call or text away if we had any questions or if we need anything during the visit. So thank you so much, Aaron. So our virtual site visit was on March 28th through 30th was a pleasant and professional experience from start to finish. Numerous constituents were interviewed during the course of the visit, and an abundant amount of evidence was reviewed for each standard, which led us to our findings. So there were a few memorable highlights from the visit. First of all, we were all very impressed with the strong support that the Hart induction program provides to its teachers and administrator candidates. Interviews were just phenomenal, and the interviewees from these groups, they were very expressive on how much they valued the support from their mentors and coaches, the time that they were able to invest in their own professional growth on goals that were meaningful and job embedded. And those connections were made for them, and they were able to make those connections on their own. They just felt like it was a wonderful experience. And then the collaborative nature of the mentors and coaches was commented on frequently, and that the workshops that the candidates attended, they just felt supported. And I'm going to share a quote from one of the interviewees. They said they never felt afraid to ask for support and never felt like I couldn't complete the work due to lack of support. So again, just a well wrapped around system of support for them. Second, we were also impressed by how the program sought to ensure that the candidates' needs had been taken into consideration over the last 2 years. So one of the themes that emerged during the visit was how responsive the program has been by making changes to the ILP, Individualized Learning Plan, from being a standalone document to being one that encompassed the ILP as well as all supporting documents. So it became a one-stop shop for them. They didn't have to search for things. The changes, candidates and felt that it made it more user-friendly, as well as showing the candidates and mentors that their feedback and input was valuable and taken into consideration. So they felt like their voices were heard. And then last, the Hart Induction Program has built a strong foundation of mentor support for all the candidates. Mentors and coaches, they receive abundant ongoing training and support that furthers their professional learning with relevant research, readings on effective coaching. During an interview, one of the coaches commented that my first year as a coach has been eye-opening and an invaluable experience. They've had collaboratives where were provided with more relevant articles, guidance, and they were able to dig into deep into different parts of the ILP. Hart's induction program has met all standards, and as a result has received the recommendation of full accreditation. And at this time, I would welcome any questions the committee may have.
Thank you, Ms. Munoz. We now invite the institutional representatives to briefly comment about the visit. We remind you this is not a time to dispute the team's report, but rather provide any thoughts that you may have about the visit itself.
Well, thank you. My name is Aaron Davis, and I am the induction director for the Center for Educator Preparation and Assistance in the William S. Hart School District. And the first thing I would say is just, even before I give my experience, just such a huge thank you to Gay Roby and the team. Gay was absolutely phenomenal in preparing us for this site visit, a year out, and all the support for us. And then when it came to facilitating the site visit, it was just relatively seamless between, if it was text messages, Zooms, calls. It was just what a great team. And then of course, a huge thank you to Rhonda and the site visit team for just all of your hard work. It was just, the information you provided to us was so meaningful, insightful, very positive, and also thorough. So we're very grateful for that. I would say for me personally, just an excellent, great experience for our program to go to. This has been my first accreditation I've been a part of, whether going through it or being interviewed or anything in that. So, just the learning experience and the reflective experience of going through for our program has just been great. I can definitely say that our program today is much better and will continue to grow as a result of going through the accreditation process, that's for sure. So thank you.
I'd also like to echo Aaron and thanks to the team, both Rhonda and Gay. I know the feedback was invaluable to us, and I appreciated the meetings you had set up because it was always very on time, very efficient. And we appreciated it because obviously everybody has busy schedules. It was nice to be able to stay on track with things. And I appreciated the efficiency, and also the questions got right to the heart of what you were looking for. And for me, it was just such a validation, the things that came out of it. And we truly believe in the Hart District. We support our staff, and now more than ever, retention of our teachers and our administrators is key because, as everybody knows, there's so many openings. And so we really do try to support this program. And it was nice to hear some of the comments that people thought we listened to them and made adjustments and really tried to embed the work and not have this be something that was an additional task for them to do, but actually supported their work. And when we hear back, it's nice because our coaches and mentors often went through our program, and it really, the comments we get is that this kickstarts them off to it gives them a good foundation for the career. So it was just a nice hearing because I think the things that we really try to strive to support is what was validated for us. And so it was a good experience, and I just wanted to express my thanks and appreciation.
And I'd also,
thank you.
Sorry.
No, please go ahead.
One more comment on there because they mentioned our mentor collaboratives. I just wanted to say the first time in 2 years, we're doing our first mentor collaborative today in person, which is a huge feat for us because all of our mentor collaborators have been now pushed after school on Zoom. We finally get to do our first one in person where we get to provide lunch and do our mentor training in person again. So it's really nice to be able to do that.
Timing is fate. It's reaffirming to hear that your comments about finding the assessment process and through the accreditation and support of the program is reaffirming, and that you don't find it as a negative or rather as a positive, to validate both what you are doing well, but also to help in constant improvement. So thank you for those comments. Any questions or comments from any committee member? Member Belatayo.
Hello. I read about the PAR program, the Peer Assistance and Review Support System, and I really appreciate the support and care that you'd like to extend to your new teachers and interns. What systems do you have in place right now to make sure that there's a notation here in terms of confusion of expectations and work between the induction and the PAR program? How have you instituted a new way of making those two systems streamlined to support your interns and new teachers?
That's a great question, and thank you for that. So with our PAR program, because while they can run parallel to each other, it's a district program versus what our induction program is. What we've done though to ensure that candidates don't have that confusion between the two is that we are adding information on the difference between the two in our induction handbook. Also for this year, starting actually this month, it's May. Starting for this month, we are going through with my collaboration team, and we're going to be revisiting our PAR program a little bit to see if we can streamline some components of it to take some of the stressors off of the teachers that may be kind of when they're enrolled simultaneously in both, to where it's not as stressful between them. So we are working hard to communicate with all of our candidates the differences between PAR and induction, but also looking to reduce kind of the workload a little bit that's associated with PAR, especially when we have candidates that are enrolled in both programs.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Member Tchaikovsky.
Yeah. Hi. I had the same question that my colleague did, and in my district, and I think this is worth talking about a little bit because what it sounds like is happening in your district, and what you've just explained is that you have a number of predetermined assignments or expectations for your new teachers beyond what you're calling induction. And so the fact that there was some confusion suggests to me that your new teachers are not aware of what it is exactly that they are held to do as a district requirement versus an induction program requirement. the topic sentence of that paragraph reads that there's a program to help veteran teachers. So I'm wondering, is PAR designed primarily for people who are a little longer in the tooth? And is that the teacher that you are supposed to be supporting through PAR? As opposed to new teachers who, through our credentialing program, are required to participate, only, is my understanding, in induction. So to me, this is a really important issue. This committee has been advised numerous times to attend to the language that nothing beyond the ILP should be required or expected of participants in induction. So let me just ask you who your mentors and coaches are for all of these programs. Are they the same people for PAR and for induction, or how does that relate?
That's a great question. And the first thing I would clarify is that when it comes to our induction candidates, the ILP for induction is the only thing that is required. So PAR is a district program that our new teachers are enrolled into. And the reason why we provide support for new teachers in the district through PAR is because a lot of our new teachers are interns, pre-interns, short-term staffing permits, sometimes long-term subs, and they really require that mentorship that's in the classroom. So PAR is going to be a program that provides direct mentorship from a full-time release teacher, and they provide weekly meetings with them along with formative observations and reflections on those observations. We also have a PAR panel that oversees the direction of our candidates that are in PAR. So the CT consulting teachers, who are our full-time release teachers supporting the candidates in PAR, are not the evaluator. It's a panel from our district that is composed of 4 teachers and 3 administrators. When it comes to, I'm trying to think on the last part of your question with that. Can you repeat the last part of your question with that for PAR?
Yeah, I think I was asking about whether your PAR program really was designed to support veteran teachers. That's how that paragraph reads.
Yeah, so we do provide support for veteran teachers as well in PAR with that. The consulting teachers that are full-time release teachers, when they support a candidate in PAR, if they're also in induction, they do support them in induction as well. They work with them on their ILP, developing their ILP, maintaining the focus and all of that. So they do both roles in that.
So my concern about that, and then I will cede the floor to others here, is this emphasis on classroom management, which really is a mask for a number of the TPEs and standards that are assessed on the TPA and should drive the ILP. So I'm given what you just said about the same consulting teachers working with the same individual on both PAR and induction, I don't see a clear distinction between those two. And it suggests to me that you are basically merging induction expectations with something that is not induction and beyond induction. So the candidates would need to de facto participate in and meet the expectations of both those programs in order to be recommended for a clear credential. So that makes me feel uncomfortable about that aspect of the program.
Absolutely, and I could see that, and I can assure you that candidates that are in PAR, their participation in PAR has no bearing on their induction outcome. Being a previous consulting teacher myself, when I had a candidate that was in both, there's definitely that support and that mentorship that goes in providing with the candidate. But when it comes to specifically working on induction work, we go through the same process as any other candidate would, where it's given with a self-assessment. They get to determine what their focus is based off their self-assessment, reflections on observations, input from administrators. And that is their ILP focus, and we work on that with them. And so we definitely ensure that our candidates that are in PAR, even if for some reason they struggle with PAR, they still have an enriched induction experience that is really separate from the PAR program. PAR does not influence where they go with induction. So induction is a very formative process with it. And we haven't had a candidate that has not completed induction as a result of participating in our PAR program.
Thank you, Member Morrison.
Mine's questions related to this as well. I was a little confused about that because we have a PAR program in my district. I'm actually on the PAR panel. And PAR is for teachers who have had unsatisfactory evaluations, who need help. There was a time when there was state funding for that program, and so we were constrained by the state rules for it. Now we fund it in our own district, but essentially that's what it is. It's not voluntary. Well, sorry, it is voluntary, but you can't just ask to be put into PAR. Your evaluation qualifies you for it. You can refuse, but your evaluation, unsatisfactory evaluation, gets you in. Is your PAR program voluntary, or is it something that all new teachers are told to join?
So it can be voluntary for some of our veteran teachers that have received unsatisfactory evaluations. So it can be in that sense, but for our new teachers that are joining the district, if they have 3 or fewer years experience, they are enrolled in the PAR program. And that's whether they're in induction or not. And like I said, I think the big reason why we initially established the PAR program for new teachers is we have, like, especially this year in our district, a lot of interns, pre-interns, short-term staffing permits, long-term substitutes, even sometimes our out-of-state teachers that really, they benefit from having a full-time mentor working with them in the classroom. And I'd really like to clarify though that, although PAR is a district program, it really has no bearing or input on a candidate's induction progress or induction program.
Thank you. Any other committee member wish to offer a comment or question? Member Forbes.
Well, my question is for the site visit team. So some of these issues that have just come up, I imagine were discussed when you were coming up with your findings. And since you found that all standards were met, could you maybe enlighten us a little bit on as to how you came about that decision?
Gay, am I taking this question? Okay. So we did have discussions around this as a team. As you saw, we did make the comment about the fact that there were concerns brought up by the candidates. Sometimes they were confused, but in the end, we had to make the decision based on the induction standards, if I am remembering our conversation correctly. And this, the PAR was not part of induction. And so we really dug into, making sure that the induction standards were met for both, and then took our concerns to Mr. Davis.
Thank you for that clarification.
Any other committee member have any question or comment? Just as a reminder, we do have the green sheet that's next to us, helps guide our thought process as we read through these reports and through the accreditation. So if there's any additional suggestions or thoughts that you have regarding that, please consult that as we move forward. Not only here, but throughout the day. Yeah, Member Forbes.
So process clarification. As a COA, the findings of the site visit team are final, correct? So we're not disputing the findings.
That's correct. You can't make the changes to the standards. You can make a different accreditation decision.
For the accreditation decision only.
Okay, seeing no more further discussion, this is an action item. Is there a motion from a committee member? Member Tchaikovsky.
All right, so I'm going to make a suggestion. I don't know if it's a movement or a recommendation. I would like there to be clarity on the differentiation between PAR and induction in this district. And I would also like to have assurance of how candidates are not held to requirements beyond those outlined in the ILP. I don't think new teachers should be mandatorily enrolled in PAR. I don't think induction aligns with that. And so how induction functions in your district, while delineated in the findings, is what it is. I think for the purpose of induction, to achieve its purpose, I would recommend accreditation with at least some report to us that outlines how PAR and induction will be separated, and how they won't both affect new teachers at Hart.
And thank you, Katrina. So for clarification, you're recommending, if I hear you correctly, yours a seventh-year report would be useful. We've heard from institutions as far as how they're differentiating between the two, but you're
that sounds good to me for all those reasons. Sorry, that was like the world's longest movement. So I move that we change the recommendation to accreditation with a seventh-year report.
okay. That's the motion on the table. Is there a second? Second from member Taylor. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye. All opposed? Okay, motion carries. So the motion then, and that is passed, is to go ahead and have a accreditation is approved. It is passed with the seventh-year report. Okay, any further questions or comments on that? All right, thank you, Mr. Davis. Thank you, Dr. Vieira. Thank you, Ms. Munoz. And thank you also, Ms. Roby, for joining us. And Gay, a shout out to you from Betty Cooner. I saw her this weekend. We were doing some work together. So she says great things about you.
I pay her for that. Thank you very much.
I'll tell you the check's in the mail. All right, we are now moving on to item 14. We're a little behind schedule, but I think we're going to be fine. It's a discussion of the second quarterly report from Santa Barbara Unified School District. Consultant Dr. Sarah Solari Colombini will introduce this item. And joining her this morning is institutional representative Roxana Stern, coordinator. Anyone need to recuse himself? Seeing none, Dr. Colombini, will you please begin?
Thank you. Okay. So this is the second quarterly report for the Santa Barbara Unified School District. If you remember, Santa Barbara Unified had a provisional site visit October 4th through the 6th of 2021. The results of that site visit were brought to the COA in February of this year. At that meeting, the COA took action to grant the institution the status of accreditation with stipulations and directed the institution to provide quarterly reports, updating the COA on the status of addressing the stipulations. Since that time, Roxana Stern, who is with us today, is the coordinator of the teacher induction program at Santa Barbara Unified. She's delivered the first quarterly report at the March 2022 COA meeting, and she's now presenting the second quarterly report, which you have in this item. And it shows where they are in continuing to address the stipulations. Staff is recommending that you accept this report as they continue to move forward on addressing the stipulations. The third quarterly report will be presented at the August COA meeting, and then the final quarterly report will be presented at the October COA meeting. And so Roxana is with us today. If you have any questions about the specifics that are in that quarterly report, you'll notice that there are links to evidence within that report. So again, Roxana is with us should you have questions. But that concludes my presentation.
All right, thank you, Dr. Colombini. So this quarterly reports, they're useful information not only for the institution, but for our work as well as COA to be sure that we are understanding the progress that's being made. And so, as you know, you've already read through the reports. Are there any other comments or thoughts that you have regarding about the reports itself? Yeah. I'm sorry. Remember Tchaikovsky? Yeah.
Hi.
Just go.
Yeah. Hello. Thanks for joining us. I just had a couple of questions regarding some of the evidence that you've linked on the last 2 pages of this report here. I noticed on one of the documents it was like required training for your mentors that there was there were several slides on California dyslexia guidelines, and so I just wondered to what degree training for mentors then may meet the needs of complementary programs or departments in your district, like that of special services? Is this a way to expand teachers' access to something important for some other mandate, like dyslexia awareness? Like, how did that come to be something that was embedded in mentor training? I guess I would ask that. And then I also noticed that one of the areas for growth was providing mentors formative feedback. And I haven't yet seen evidence or materials that are kind of moving in that direction. So I'm curious about those two things.
All right. Thank you for both of those questions, and thank you for the opportunity to be here this morning. The dyslexia guidelines are something that a couple of years ago were required to be shared at both the preliminary, as part of preliminary teacher preparation programs and induction programs, to ensure that all future and new teachers had this information about the dyslexia guidelines and understood how they could be a partner in supporting students with diverse reading abilities and supporting the families of those students as well. And we do like our mentors to be knowledgeable about the information that's being shared with candidates. And so we want, each year we make an effort to share the dyslexia guidelines as part of our mentor training, and to set aside some time for mentors to walk through that document and either refresh their memories on what's included in it or look for something new, and really think about how that plays into the work that they are doing with their candidates, so they can have that tool fresh on their minds. We frame it in many ways like an app that we have on our phones, that it's something that we want mentors and candidates to know that that tool exists and to have some experience with it, so that when they do need to tap into that, much like we tap the icon for an app on our phone, that they are not having to deal with something that's completely unfamiliar to them. So it's responding to a mandate that we had received, and it's really trying to authentically weave that work into our program. With regard to
just mandate, did you help me understand? Mandate is from where? What's the mandate to integrate this within induction training?
I can respond to that. There has been legislation that required us to distribute to all preparation programs the dyslexia guidelines. There has been subsequent legislation, SB 488, that we are working on pretty heartily right now, that requires an even more explicit incorporation of the dyslexia guidelines into all preparation programs. So we have a group that is starting, a work group starting on Tuesday of next week, that will be dealing with reading and literacy. And you can expect to see a brand new standard in the preliminary ed specialist mild mod, as well as the single subject, multiple subject, I think I got them all, that will require much more explicit reading instruction as well as literacy instruction. So there's been sort of a move to distribute those guidelines, which we did, I think, through a PSA a couple of years ago, and now subsequent legislation that will be very explicit about what should be included in programs. So.
Yeah, and just to be clear, my question really isn't to like target you as this group. I think, we're looking at numerous programs, and one of the issues that we have to handle is to what degree is the PD and the training that mentors and candidates give and deliver based on individualized learning plans on the ILP, right? That's supposed to be the heart of it. So I'm just asking this question just to kind of get some idea of to what degree your program has already kind of decided what it is that candidates need to spend time on, because that is an issue that we debate here often. So I was just trying to learn more about how you go about doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, appreciate the question. Your other question was about the formative feedback for our mentors, and in working in partnership with our site visit team, and also working with our consultant, and also reaching out to fellow induction programs in the area, we've been figuring out how we can find that balance point of providing formative feedback to our mentors that is constructive and not off-putting to our mentors, because it is certainly an extra ask of somebody to become a mentor. And there again is that fine line of whether you're giving constructive feedback or whether a mentor is feeling like possibly they're being criticized by their candidate. So finding ways to again, provide that feedback and have it be received by the mentors. And so we have had general feedback that's been given to the mentors, but the recommendation was that it should be more specific to that mentor-candidate relationship. And so we are working toward getting it down to that more granular level. And one piece that we did share in the evidence of actions taken at Q2 is that we have an item called aggregate comments from the mid-year candidate survey. And there are specific questions on our mid-year candidate survey about the mentor partnership or the mentor relationship and the ways in which the mentor has supported the candidate in their induction journey and provided access to the profession and support in the profession. And so this year we shared the aggregate comments with our mentors, and we will continue to do that. Additionally, we invited our mentors to have a conversation with their candidates, a reflective conversation where they invited some more specific feedback. And we will do more work around preparing mentors for that in the coming year, and also encouraging our candidates to feel comfortable providing that feedback. Because of course, as a new teacher, there's the sense of, oh my gosh, I don't want to say anything that's going to put my job in jeopardy or put my relationship with my colleagues in jeopardy. So it's trying to empower the candidates to provide that feedback and also teach the mentors how to facilitate a space in which candidates feel comfortable providing that feedback, and for the mentors to feel like they can welcome that without feeling put out or criticized when they're already doing something extra.
And I'll add to this because I'm not expecting you to remember their site visit in October. This was really around candidate feedback because the mentors do get feedback from Roxana around the ILPs. Again, I'm not expecting you to remember this. The mentors work with their candidates on ILPs, and Roxana reviews every single ILP. And so if Roxana sees something that's maybe weak on an ILP from a candidate and a mentor working pairing, Roxana works with the mentor to say, okay, I noticed the ILPs that you're working on are maybe weak in whatever area. So that wasn't the targeted area. So she's already giving feedback to mentors on their work with candidates around ILPs. This was around how can the mentors gather feedback from candidates. So because there's always those two parts, right, of mentor work, right? All right.
Yeah, if I could just, there's a line in there that toward the end that suggests you'll have quality control sampling process for, credential recommendation. And I kind of like that concept, but I wasn't clear what that would look like. So I guess I'm just kind of saying with bated breath for the next report, I would like to know quality control sampling process. Sounds like what you've just described there, right? Where you play this really critical facilitator role to read between the lines and to interpret and to help both candidates and mentors, learn from each other. So you're where all the good stuff is. Thank you.
You bring up a good point, Member Tchaikovsky. It's not like just having the third report, but what we're looking for in the third report, right? What can we expect to see? Member Morrison, you did have your hand up earlier.
I'd like to say how much I liked your Wednesdays. Where should I be now? When I first saw that, I thought that was designed for me as someone who gets confused around the middle of the week. Sorry. But when I clicked on it and saw that there's that constant flow of information to the teachers, what I thought would be really cool though, in it you say, if you have any questions, call or email me. It would have been great if those questions that the teachers had sent you would have been there as well. So I could have seen what it was, the issues were, and how you were dealing with them. And I don't know if that's technically possible on that link that you have, but it would be good if we could see the history of the problems that came up and how you respond to them. That would be really good.
All right, thank you for that feedback. We'll look for a way to incorporate that because that would help provide a little more focus.
Thank you. Any of the committee member have any comments or questions? All right, this is an action item. Is there a motion? Member Belatayo.
I move that we accept Santa Barbara Unified School District's second quarterly report.
All right, thank you. So moved. Is there a second? Second by Member Forbes. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. All opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you again, Ms. Stern. Thank you, Ms. Columbini. We look forward to reading the third quarterly report in August. Thank you so much.
Thank you. See you then.
Moving on to item 15, it's the report of the accreditation team to San Francisco State University. Consultant Dr. Sarah Solari Columbini will travel far in her chair. To introduce the next item, joining her is team lead Dr. Thomas Smith and institutional representatives Dr. Cynthia Grutzik, Dean, and Dr. Doris Flowers, interim associate dean. Anyone need to recuse himself? Seeing none, Dr. Columbini.
I can give my chair a spin around maybe, and that will help, huh?
There you go.
All right. So on April 10th through the 13th, an accreditation site visit was held virtually for the San Francisco State University, their programs. A team of 11 BIR members and 2 CTC staff gathered to review the 15 educator preparation programs offered at San Francisco State University. Prior to the site visit, CTC staff, that would be Michelle Bernardo and myself, worked with San Francisco State, namely Cindy Grutzik and Doris Flowers, to prepare for this visit. Before handing this over to our team lead, Dr. Thomas Smith, I do want to thank the dean and her staff, because she did have to work with coordinating an interview schedule for 11 team members and the 2 CTC staff. So that was quite a feat. As those of you know, you've been involved with these things, and it is quite an orchestration of, of organizing this. So I do want to thank the team members as well. They did work hard to review all these programs. So great organization on behalf of the university and of course of our team. And then I'm going to hand this over to our wonderful team lead, who I've had the pleasure of working with before, Dr. Thomas Smith. He should be on. Yep, there he is.
Right here.
So I'll let him tell the story. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. I also want to thank Dean Grutzik and her staff for providing us with most of the data and information that we needed, prior to the visit in an easily accessible format, and then working tirelessly to ensure that we had enough stakeholders to interview in the process, which is certainly challenging through a virtual visit, but we were able to complete 617, participants through interviews, or reach those participants through interviews. The team obtained sufficient and consistent information that led to a high degree of confidence in us making our overall and programmatic judgments about the professional unit's operation. I want to give a few highlights before we jump into our specific recommendations. The Graduate College of Education at San Francisco State focuses on preparing reflective, transformative educators, clinicians, leaders, and scholars who advance the professions within education. This isn't just all talk. This is not, we really, saw this vision and their more elaborated one play out across all of their programs. It's notable that with 15 credential programs spread across 3 colleges, the unit leadership was effective in monitoring all aspects of the programs, particularly in relationship to the standards and supporting continuous improvement. There really is a strong ethos of collaboration across those programs. I wanted to note that faculty, staff, students, stakeholders have multiple ways to provide input into program design and operation. There's a strong emphasis on data and continuous improvement that just really feels like it has momentum in the school, and I would expect even a stronger program to evolve over the next couple of years. Just want to give one example. There really is wide involvement of stakeholders in reviewing data. There are 2 college-wide meetings a year with faculty and staff where they're just reviewing data, for improvement. And these aren't little groups trying to make small decisions. These are really large constituencies from across a range of programs, and people really get involved in, seeing data and in making recommendations for improvement. I think it was, really quite impressive. Many district partners and employers of candidates across programs offered that San Francisco State candidates and eventual clinicians, teachers that came out in their districts, were really self-reflective and had a strong grounding in social justice. And it was important to hear this because these traits were so foundational, to the mission of the programs. Many of their educational partners shared their appreciation for the quality candidates that come from their programs that fulfill a need in the community. So one real important example here, I think, was that even with large scale budget reductions over the past several years, kind of really based on declining enrollment in the university, the college and the unit, really put an emphasis on maintaining programs that were really important for the community, including the bilingual authorization in Cantonese, which really is a unique program that really allows dual language learners in the San Francisco area to maintain their first language. And if you note from the report, across these 15 programs, some of them are relatively small. And, in many places under, tight financial constraints, these would be the first things that were cut. But because they have, they meet strong community needs, I think it's really noticeable that the college, and the unit has worked hard to make sure that these remain viable, even when enrollment and kind of the number of students credentialed each year are relatively small. You see the more than 60-page report that you have in front of you. There are lots of details, and we'll be happy to answer any questions about them. But I'll jump, right to the meat. That our recommendation, based on finding the preconditions to be aligned, that all program standards were found to be met for all 15 educator preparation programs, and that all common standards were determined to be met. Our overall recommendation is accreditation.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. We now invite institutional representatives to briefly comment about the visit. I remind you it's not a time to dispute the team's report, but rather provide any thoughts that you may have about the visit itself.
Hello, everyone, and greetings from San Francisco State. It's an honor to be here. I'm Dr. Cynthia Grutzik. I'm the Dean of the Graduate College of Education. I do want to second the thanks that Tom has expressed. Much gratitude to the team and to Tom as team lead for conducting a really effective and thoughtful visit as we experienced it from our perspective. We felt that we had every opportunity to fully share, show, talk, discuss our programs, and we felt seen. I think I heard a previous dean say that just shortly in one of these presentations, that it feels good to be seen for what we do. And I want to thank Sarah and Michelle for all the support the previous year. You were available to us. We met regularly, and you really helped us tee it up and offered a lot of support. I want to acknowledge the team at San Francisco State. We have really solid folks. I think all of you have had the experience of, when the work gets hard is when you really see how people shine, and so many people really work so hard to get this done. I also want to acknowledge this process that I am such a believer in, this process of peer review for improvement feedback, for confirmation. And I appreciate the role that the COA plays in this as well. So thank you for all your time. Yeah, it was a long report, lots of programs. But again, even in reading through the report myself, when I was checking for the factual errors, I reflected that I've just never seen all the programs laid out side by side like that. It's really remarkable to see all that goes on here at San Francisco State, and it's an honor for me to be part of it. We learned a lot about ourselves through this process, for sure. And I would say, you know, now that this visit is behind us, we have wind in our sails. You know, we really feel energized to keep moving forward. We're encouraged, and that's such a nice outcome of this process. So I really appreciate that. And we are, Tom, as you suggested, we are really excited to keep evolving the things that we've started, the things that have been long-standing. These programs have been in this area for a long, long time and do continue to improve. So thank you, everyone. And I look forward to your questions and your comments. And thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Grudzik. Your comment about energized to keep moving forward really strikes, because that's exactly what we hope that the process entails, to keep motivation. Question I had for the team lead is, you couldn't find more people to interview? So it's a very detailed report, so this is an opportunity for committee members to go ahead and ask any questions or any comments that you might have to make. Member Taylor.
I'd like to commend everyone associated with the report. It is a very long, very comprehensive report. And I'd like to really speak to and echo Dr. Smith's comments about the commitment to providing those incredibly important niche programs, the bilingual authorization in Chinese, Mandarin, and so important and hard for institutions to maintain the necessary commitment to offer those programs and offer them well. And wherever it's possible, it's so important for the state to have those programs, and really commend San Francisco State for maintaining that, and the adapted physical education program as well. Really sore need for those programs throughout the state for kids with disabilities to have that specialized instruction in physical activity that all our kids so desperately need. And just impressive throughout the report to see how all of the programs really responded to the challenge of the pandemic. It seemed evident in several places, and particularly the adapted PE I was drawn to, and their commitment to coming out of the pandemic in a strong way. It was impressive. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Taylor. Well stated. Member Forbes.
Well, along those lines, first of all, I really want to thank the team for a very comprehensive and actually very enjoyable report to read, although it was long and had lots of great details provided for us. And also to the team for noting the strong community involvement, but more importantly to the institution for having such strong stakeholder support. It was evident in the number of people who showed up to be interviewed, but also just in numerous comments that were made. So I was just curious, Dr. Grudzik, kind of responding to Member Taylor's comment, what do you think is the secret ingredient that's allowed San Francisco State to continue offering these programs that are such high impact, but often with so-called low incidence populations?
I think it's an ongoing...
tips for the rest of us?
Yeah. Oh, you know, one reason I appreciated Dr. Smith's comments is because, you know, having been a dean himself, he knows the challenges. And I think it does come down to these varied factors of, for one, who are the faculty on the team. I think when it really gets hard is when you lose faculty. And we've had our share of that too, you know, partly pandemic related. because we've got, experts in the field in these areas. I'm thinking even about the TVI, VI program, where we've got a really strong faculty. But we don't have a very deep bench. So as things come by, we have to really sometimes scramble. And then, I think the other challenge, just speaking frankly, is that I'm not sure it's super clear how expensive it is to run professional licensure programs. And in universities that we get paid based on course attendance, but that doesn't cover a lot of what it takes to maintain a program. So I have to really acknowledge the hard work that faculty put in above and beyond to keep even the large and the small programs going, but especially the small programs where they may or may not get the kind of support, the clear support that they need from the institution as much as we all wish they would. So it takes some creative stuff. But I think the feedback from the community is important too, because when we hear from the districts that they need to hire our people, or when we hear at our district partners meeting that they are looking for counselors or school psychologists or something, that's just important feedback to take back to our administration to say, this is why, so I think it's a variety of reasons, but it helps to hear from you all too, that it's important for us to do this. That's another thing that we can take to our administrators.
Feedback and communication, as you stated, it's just so important throughout the process on all levels. Katrina, I'm sorry, member Ford.
I just wanted to say in response that I really appreciate, Dr. Grutzik, that you highlighted the importance of faculty. And so it's interesting, this is a subject for a different discussion, but there's legislation right now supporting hiring of bilingual authorization tenure track faculty right within the CSUs. And so hopefully with continued community support across the state, we can see more efforts like that to put money back into the public education system, post-secondary system, as well as all of our other colleagues in the private and independents.
Thank you, Member Tchaikovsky.
Well, Cheryl said some of the things. I just wanted to point out, I thought this was a super fun report. It was super encouraging. It was full of all kinds of specifics, and two things that I wanted to just put out there. The consistently articulated way, it sounds like you people look at data beyond the standard sets of empirical numbers is worthy of consideration. Everything you just explained about how you've defended against all kinds of threat, equity focused work isn't easy. And like you said, you're very humble, you take some creativity, you say, right? Yeah. But it also takes, keeping your eye on the ball and counting and measuring and gauging progress in ways that can be used to garner support, right? So awesome. I just kept seeing that in here. And then as Cheryl said, the bilingual programs that you offer are unlike others that we're looking at today and that I have seen. You have 3 semesters of placement in the student's target language. Like, that takes some serious relationships and placement. And I think your program has a lot to illustrate in terms of what actual programs that put action behind the philosophy of social justice could look like. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Member Tchaikovsky. Member Bellatayo.
Hi, Dr. Grutzik. What is the likelihood that a bilingual authorization in Tagalog would be someday added to your huge roster? I'm quite impressed with your program, and I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I love that question. I think the model that we have, what we're trying to anchor continually, is a model that where the common structure kind of allows multiple areas of language focus, so that I think it's not about starting a whole new separate program as much as folding in possibly other languages into our program. I would even love to fold in ASL. I don't know if that's a thing, but At a recent newly admitted students event on our campus, so many incoming freshmen asked us about, majoring in ASL or studying ASL. And, we were like, well, what? And I think now that they're getting into high school, it's time to bring those things on board. And I know there's a sizable Filipino community in this area, and our College of Ethnic Studies is very focused on that too. So there might be some really interesting ways to grow in that direction. I really appreciate the question.
I look forward to that. I'm a BCLAD holder in Tagalog, and I have yet to use it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for the comments. If any institution could do it, Dr. Gritzek, yours could, with your guidance there. All right, this is an action item. Is there a motion from any committee member? Member Taylor.
I recommend that we accept the, I move that we accept the recommendation of accreditation for San Francisco State University.
Thank you. So moved. Is there a second? Second by member Tchaikovsky. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Gritzek.
Don't hang up yet.
Yep,
I did want to just say thank you to Dr. Tom Smith. My understanding is you are leaving the state. We're losing you to Vanderbilt University, and we want to say thank you for the many, many times that you've served as a team lead and all of the work that you've done for the commission.
Thank you.
Am I
That's
correct
very
in
kind.
that?
You are correct.
Yeah, we're going to miss your guidance. I can imagine corralling the group that you did to this team visit had to be enormous, having been team lead on much smaller. I know the enormous task, but being able to do what you have done, it was just really extraordinary. So congratulations to you and your entire team. But we'll miss your efforts, and I'm sure Vanderbilt is going to gain a great asset in you. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you, Dr. Colombini, who will spin around in her chair to come to yet another one. This is the report of the accreditation team to San Francisco. Oh, sorry. No. Point Loma, Nazarene University. At least I changed your glasses.
Yeah.
All right. So Dr. Sarah Solari Colombini will introduce the item. Joining her this morning is team lead Dr. Christine Zeppos, institutional representatives Dr. Michael Cork, Director of Assessment and Accreditation, Dr. Jill Hamilton Bunch, Associate Dean, and our old friend and good friend, Dr. Deb Erickson, Dean, School of Education. Good to see you again, Deb.
Great. Okay. So this will be my final time for this morning. I'll see you again
this morning. Okay.
I'll see you this afternoon. Yeah. So this is a report of the revisit to Point Loma Nazarene University. And the initial accreditation site visit took place on April 18th through the 21st of 2021. At the June 2021 COA meeting, the COA made a decision that a revisit was to occur within 1 year to confirm that all of the stipulations from the original site visit were addressed. A revisit was scheduled for March 28th through the 30th, during which the team lead, which we have with us today, Dr. Christine Zeppos, and two of the original team members conducted interviews and a review of the submitted evidence to determine if the identified common standards and specific program standards were sufficient to meet the standards. You will find the details of the findings of this revisit in the report. And based upon a thorough review of the evidence presented and the interviews conducted by the team recommends that all of the stipulations be removed and that the accreditation decision be changed from accreditation with stipulations to accreditation with a follow-up report to the COA in 6 months, addressing the one program standard, Standard 11, for the adapted physical education program, which is still found to be met with concerns. So we do have both, as you see with us, we have both the team lead and the institutional representatives who were already introduced with us today to answer any questions that you may have about the revisit or about any of the programs at Point Loma University. So with that, I will let you ask the questions unless you would like the team lead to give any information.
Thank you, Dr. Colombini. Dr. Zeppos, would you wish to offer any comments?
maybe just expound on a small part. And first, I just want to offer some thanks as well, not only to Sarah for guiding us through the process, not only this last year, but the previous year as we prepared for the initial visit, and to those that served on the revisit, Judy Silva and Greg Bellender, who were great to work with back in March and leading up to this. I also want to thank the institution, Deb Erickson, Associate Dean Jill Hamilton Bunch, and also Michael Cork. A revisit's not fun, and being able to get the information that we needed and the stakeholders that we needed to speak with, they were so wonderful to work with, and again, led to these findings. I do want to just talk just briefly about Standard 11 and why that was met with concerns. And you again, probably saw it in the report, but just wanted to highlight that prior to some questions. The reason that was still met with concerns is that even though there was abundant evidence on instruction and assessment concepts of motor development, the evidence of instruction and the principles of motor learning and motor control and how they apply to effective instruction was still not found in the documentation. And the reason that we highlighted that in the 6-month report was that we felt that this was something that was easily rectified. And as you will hear from the institution, I'm sure they've already started work on that, and we're quite confident that this is moving in the direction to remove this concern as well. So I just wanted to highlight that. Again, all the stipulations we are recommending to be removed, and that one program standard was met with concerns, but we're quite confident that we're moving forward in addressing those concerns.
Thank you, Dr. Zepos. And this is now an opportunity for the institutional representatives to offer any comment about the visit. Remind you it's not time to dispute the report, but rather provide any thoughts that you may have about the visit itself.
Well, it's nice to see everyone today. Thank you for inviting us to join you. And we'd like to thank Dr. Zepos for being the consummate site lead, to Dr. Silva and Mr. Bellender for their careful and thorough review and re-review of our programs, and to Dr. Solari Colombini for leading us through this process for the past 2 years. The active continuous improvement has been evidenced through the data we've collected this past year from candidates, instructors, and stakeholders. As Dr. Zepos mentioned, we've already addressed Mr. Bellender's concerns of making more visible the placement of motor learning and control within the syllabi. It was in the Canvas shell, but not as available in the documents he saw. An update of that was submitted to the CTC and the site lead a week after the past review. We're just glad to be a stronger community for the process, and we thank you for your work as a body, reviewing the work our community has accomplished that supports our candidates to serve all children from all communities and make a difference for each one of those children and young adults, as well as their families.
Thank you, Dr. Erickson. And Deb was a member of the COA, I think I'm trying to think, was it 2011? Is that, and then to 2019? That's just a guess.
I think that's correct.
All right, good. All right. Yeah, she was a very valued member of this committee. So she knows the process that we are going through very deeply. Any other member of the institution wish to offer comment? All right, seeing none, this is an opportunity for committee members to offer any comments or questions. Member Tchaikovsky.
Yeah, hi everybody from San Diego to San Diego. When I read through this, I thought, wow, that's a long list. I had kind of forgotten, right? And we had, not only did Point Loma systematically, methodically and thoroughly address these stipulations, but you did it during a time when you had to just kind of pivot in your little kayak. I think, Deb, you sort of use that analogy before. You said Point Loma's got to be more like a kayak, where other institutions are more like freight liners, perhaps, right? So I guess my question was just kind of how did your necessitated use of technology during that online learning period position you to make these changes and do it relatively fast?
Well, we did come back together as a community face-to-face in August of 2021. So we have had that time to work together. We have found multiple uses in the ways that technology has enhanced our community, both through the adjuncts, with the supervisors, with our advisory board. We've brought them together as a community, both San Diego and Kern County, through the use of Zoom, which has been beneficial. And the data we've collected from the supervisors, the university adjuncts, and our advisory council has been immeasurably positive that we're bringing those groups together as we're talking about programs across our unit. So that has been very helpful, but it also has been helpful to be back together in person. Also, we've received support from the university in our student success advisors, and we've been very specific about training them to help candidates as they have questions about their programs, provide very detailed program planning guides as to when they're going to take specific courses and what field work's coming up, what assessments are coming up, how their performance expectations in their courses are feeding into the performance expectations for either the teacher programs or the preliminary administrative services program. So it's really been a community coming together. And I'd also like to say this process, I really meant what I said about continuous process. We've always striven to have that be a part of our community. And the process just helps us get even better at what we were already doing well. Jill and Michael, do you have anything to add?
I would just concur that this process has really added to that continuous improvement, and that we have just appreciated the opportunity to improve. And this gave us a catalyst for that. This gave us a blueprint for that. The university has been very supportive of that, both fiscally and with time. And we are better today because we were involved in this process. So thank you.
I guess on top of that, I would add the 2 years of distance learning and then transitions into and out of really provided us with a catalyst for strengthening our reliance on Canvas as our LMS. We were able to bring that into all of our classes, whether they were delivered fully online asynchronously or synchronous face-to-face or hybrid. And keeping that connection to Canvas allowed us to leverage fidelity into the courses once we got into the 22-23 or 21-22 school year and back into the revisit. So it really helped strengthen that alignment across our units and across different sections.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from committee members? Member Taylor.
I'd like to make a comment first that it's an impressive turnaround. It was a long list of stipulations, and commend you on the good work that you've done. With the one area that there was still concern around the lack of instruction in motor behavior and motor control, you mentioned that had been added to a course outline. What assurance can you give me that there's actually instruction is now being provided? And because my sense here is that we should not move to accreditation, we should maintain the stipulation that that met with concerns is somehow addressed to get it over the line.
I believe that met with concerns is still met. And when I said make it more visible, it was already within the Canvas shell, but over and in what the students are learning. But over and above that, we have added additional materials, additional videos, additional, what else do I want to say? To make it more visible to candidates to ensure that they are truly learning what the needs of providing motor learning and control and assessment of that looks like for our AP children who have adaptive physical education needs. And Jill, you might want to add to this because you've been working with our program director and our specialists that we brought in to address this specific concern.
So as Dr. Erickson said, it was in the Canvas shell, and Dr. Court commented on that as well. So we have a Canvas system for each course that really became much more sophisticated as a result of the pandemic. And so it was within the course, but it wasn't always very clear to the candidates that it was called that, or they had trouble calling that out. So it's been shored up within the course where it was located. And then the syllabus is further documentation of what's occurring in the course itself. So that's the change that was made. And we have an APE, a current APE expert who is teaching that particular course where that's located. And she came in within that first couple of weeks. And that's when the work was done, because we wanted to do it immediately so that the next offering of that particular sequence, which begins this summer, which for us is next week, very early summer, we wanted to make sure that it was there for candidates right away so that we weren't waiting to have that happen as soon as the course began. So that is embedded in the course as it was, but with those additional pieces, and that will begin next Monday.
Thank you, Member Tchaikovsky.
Maybe I misunderstood, but I thought to kind of acknowledge Member Taylor's comment that Sarah's suggestion was that we consider a revised recommendation of accreditation, but that we could expect in 6 months information and confirmation that these concerns, particularly about the adaptive PE program, have been materially addressed. Right? Isn't that kind of what I didn't see it written that way in the recommendation in the report itself, right. But perhaps the 6 month update could be really specific to the questions that you just asked.
Right, and that's a good point.
If you look on page 7,
be specific within there.
I'm sorry. If you look on page 7 with the revisit findings, we did articulate that. So it says accreditation with a follow-up report to the COA in the 6 months addressing the program standard 11. So
yep.
Do you think that's sufficient for clarifying that aspect?
Well, normally where we look to see the recommendation is at the beginning where it states accreditation, and there's no qualifying language around that. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm not the wordsmith in the family, but
great.
Any guidance
Sarah?
Structurally from the staff?
I'm pulling it up right now. Okay, so the actual language is that a report to the COA in 6 months addressing program standard 11 for the adapted physical education added authorization program that is still found to be met with concerns. But I appreciate Member Taylor's comment in that how are we assured that the candidates are learning motor control, because just because something's put on a syllabus or in a Canvas shell doesn't necessarily mean that candidates are able to remember. Programs are responsible for assuring that candidates have the knowledge, but have the skills and abilities, right? And so, as you know, part of going out and doing an accreditation site visit, we interview candidates, right? And so part of the evidence collection is not just reviewing syllabi and looking at what's in a shell, but it's interviewing candidates and making sure that they understand about motor control and motor behavior and things like that. So I appreciate your question. It's a very valid question. So Um, the report or the recommendation is that there's a report addressing program standard 11. How we can modify that to ensure.
Why wouldn't that read accreditation with stipulations then? And then this would be the one stipulation that would be addressed via the 6-month report.
Well, you also have typically the option of accreditation, full accreditation with the 7th year report, which this essentially is just an moved up 7th year report. So you could go either way. That has been, an option for the COA, accreditation with 7th year report or accreditation with stipulations. It depends on where you land on the topic.
Member Forbes.
Well, along those lines, it seems that the first step is to have, I guess, as you've already started, the information presented to the candidates, but in order to see that the candidates have implemented it, it seems it would need to be longer than 6 months. Is that where I'm hearing a possible 7th year report instead of a 6-month out report, or is it 6 month and a year?
So you're saying follow up with the 6-month report. The option would be to follow up the 6-month report as stated, but in order to see that the progress has actually been made with evidence to support the concerns about the motion control, I think motion behavior, if I was reading that correctly, that would be more evident in the 7th year report.
That would be my recommendation, because it would give them more time to be able to collect evidence that the candidates can implement this information other than just having it in the syllabus and the Canvas shell. You'd have some actual outcome data where it might be harder to do that within 6 months.
Mm-hmm. So if anything else, extending it to the 7th year report actually will be more beneficial for all parties concerned.
Me.
Go ahead, Deb. Sorry, Dr. Erickson.
So along with each one of our courses in the APE program is a fieldwork placement specifically that aligns with that program. And I might suggest that we would be able to provide some of the data at our 6-month review or our 6-month report that would allow you to see that not only have we included additional data specifically to the questions Mr. Belinder had, but to also show that they have practiced that in the field.
So in doing some of those and seeing it in 6 months, and it comes before the committee, and the committee can then make the determination if there's been sufficient evidence that's brought forth at that point to either continue on that path or to ask and request additional information, additional report. Dr. Columbini.
Right, because they, as Dr. Hamilton Bunch mentioned, that they're offering this course right now. Their summer starts in a couple of weeks, I think she said. So the course will be offered to candidates in June and July. So they would have data to share with you in 6 months with the fieldwork that's attached to that course. So it's very reasonable to say that they could come back in 6 months with data about the candidates who have gone through the course if they have the fieldwork attached to that course. So that's very.
So the report then would come back to us in 6 months, review the evidence at that point, make the determination at that. So the recommendation would be to accept the 6th report with specific information looking forward in that 6th report to address the stipulation. I mean, it sounds like we're looking for specific types of evidence to support the concern. Is that what I'm hearing, committee members? Member Taylor, I know you had brought this up initially.
Yeah, so that would be addressed in the 6-month report.
Right, but just to specify what evidence would like to be provided from the COA or from the institution to the COA to be able to assess whether or not additional reports be needed at that point. Dr. Columbini, looks like you're ready to.
Yeah, so you're asking for the 6-year report to include evidence that candidates are demonstrating their knowledge of motor control.
Correct. If I'm hearing
behavior.
That's what the concern was, yes. So having discussed that, though, it's time for a motion, and see if anyone would like to throw out a motion for the committee, and we'll get a further discussion if necessary. Member Morrison, by the way.
I move that we accept the recommendation of accreditation with the proviso that we will receive a 6-monthly report. To include specifically data on the adaptive PE. More specific, what was it? The implementation. Under the 11 for adapted physical education.
Okay, is there a second? A second by Member Taylor. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye. All opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Cork, Dr. Hamilton Bunch, Dr. Erickson, Dr. Zeppos, and Dr. Colombini again for your detailed report and giving us opportunity to discuss it. Thank you so much. All right, thank you.
Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you. Dr. Colombini, go take a break. We'll see you this afternoon, eh? Okay, we are a little behind schedule. We would normally take a break for lunch, but I want to be sure that we do this at the time certain that was for 11:30, and USC has been patient and waiting, as have the consultant Miranda Gutierrez and Jake Schuler. We'll be discussing the first quarterly report for University of Southern California. This is item 17. And joining the consultants today are institutional representatives Dr. Kathy Kresha, Director of Accreditation and Credentialing, Kate O'Connor, Assistant Dean for Professional Development, Dr. Marcia Boveja Reggio, School Counseling Program and Lead, School Counseling Program Lead for Rosier, and Dr. Xiomara Mateo Gaxiola. I hope I got that close. Gaxiola? Yeah. Thank you. Anyone need to recuse themselves? We have Dr. Kresha, and we had one more member, Valatayo. All right, Mr. Schuler, will you please begin?
So change of plans. I'm actually going to be starting, and then Jake will go after me. Well, good morning, afternoon. It's nice to be back and see everyone. So as a reminder, in October 2021, USC hosted their accreditation site visit, and in February of this year, you all accepted the team's recommendation of accreditation with stipulations, and part of those stipulations require that USC submit quarterly reports for the next year. So in the agenda item, you can find a list of the stipulations on pages 1 and 2, and a link to their full quarterly report also on the second page. So the stipulations relate to elements within the Common Standards and the Preliminary Administrative Services Program. I'm going to share actions taken on their steps to address the stipulations related to Common Standards, and then Jake will talk through the Preliminary Admin Program stipulations. And then, as you know, we're joined by the institutional representatives. And in this first quarterly report, just a reminder that these first quarterly reports are usually an institution's plan to address the stipulation. Some actions have already taken place, but it's anticipated that future reports will build on what's already included in this report. So for the stipulations related to Common Standards, the site team found that the unit did not include all of its programs in its continuous improvement process. Since the site visit, USC has initiated meetings to include additional stakeholders in the continuous improvement of their programs, specifically for the preliminary admin program and the school counseling program. The site visit team also identified the absence of formalized interactions between the School of Education and the School Social Work program, which is housed outside of the School of Education. Since the visit, monthly meetings have been established to formalize these interactions between the School of Social Work and the School of Education. The site visit team also identified that the capacity of the credentialing office to process credentials, identified the capacity to efficiently process credentials in the stipulations. And since the site visit, I think this was reported on during the report out, the credentialing office has hired 2 additional staff, 1 full-time and 1 temporary, although that temporary staff is going to become full-time in July. It's anticipated that those new staff will also be available to support the volume of candidate inquiries and processing the credential files. And finally, there's a stipulation that the unit provide evidence of a candidate-centered process to identify barriers to entry and retention in the program for candidates from diverse backgrounds. And included in this quarterly report is a strategic plan priorities with a focus on diversity and also the dean's charge for the School of Education. So I'm going to let Jake talk you through the preliminary admin stipulations and actions.
Jake, you're muted. Deliver. Okay. All right. So the stipulations for the preliminary administrative services program were focused around 3 different standards. So program standard 2, program standard 7, and program standard 8. For program standard 2, it's focused on regular and open communications and coordination with community partners and school districts. In response to that stipulation, USC has created an advisory board that was going to begin meetings, I believe, as of this point in time, but that also would meet more frequently. So they may be able to say more about those efforts around that group. For program standard 7 was around ensuring diversity in field placements. In response, USC is working on including an analysis of each candidate's placement to ensure that diverse school setting. For standard 8, it was around gathering consistent feedback from candidates on their field experiences and supports, and then on the flip side, providing feedback to candidates on their performance in those placements. So USC's report talks about consistent meetings with field supports and also planning to implement midterm and end of course fieldwork satisfaction surveys. So that's getting the feedback from candidates. And then for providing timely feedback to candidates, they're planning to add in new opportunities throughout the year for candidates to receive feedback and constructive suggestions for improvement. So we will stop there. That's a summary of the report. You saw a lot more detail in the report that they provided. We'll turn it back over to you, Chair Frelly, on the next steps. All right, thank you. We now invite institutional representatives to briefly comment about the report itself.
Hello. Just like to say thank you first to Jake and Miranda for really helping us organize and really try to address these as specifically as we possibly could. There's a lot of information, a lot of questions, and our programs really do handle things quite differently from each other. So trying to create the framework where we show that the unit is definitely being responsive and definitely accountable to all the programs and really making sure that they are meeting the standards and providing the information necessary. So I do want to say thank you for that. And if you have any questions, feel free.
All right, thank you, Dr. Gracia. Any questions or comments from committee members? Member Tchaikovsky.
Hey.
Hello.
So, yeah, I as I was looking this over, I was thinking, okay, if I were gonna like kind of think about how to progress with some of these stipulations, I was focused on number 7, and I just wondered if you have any thoughts about like the relationship between like major outcomes or expectations for the school in general, and then what kind of pieces of data you might proactively set yourself up to collect, since this is the first quarter, have you thought about just kind of thinking about the conversation that we had with San Francisco State? Like, what kind of data might you position yourself to collect from people that could help you better understand, important goals that you're attempting to achieve this year?
So for us, when we talk about our goals, we were kind of in a transition in terms of our leadership. And, equity and diversity have always been a huge thing for USC. So, looking at the types of data that are related to how we make sure that we are recruiting diverse candidates, how are we supporting those diverse candidates, what are the processes we have in place, how many candidates get referred into that process. And also what's huge for us is looking at our coursework to make sure that our coursework is addressing all of those things. And so we've instituted coursework reviews across all programs, not just the credential programs. But as you can imagine, with the transition in the leadership and with Dean Noguera's particular background, when it came to diversity and equity, we kind of put things on pause until we got him in the loop in terms of, so now we have the dean's charge and some of his strategic plan initiatives, because the strategic plan was actually being revised, and I was actually on that particular work group. And we had started some things in place that were following up from a diversity and equity report that we had done about 2019, 2020, and we revised our mission to reflect what we consider to be urban education, because again, that's part of the process. So now that we have him in place, if the dean's charge is going to be the primary vehicle by which we collect some of this data. So we've kind of taken our lead from his directions, and in addition to some of the things that I've already told you about, you could really look at that as it's being developed, because programs are really, he is really a researcher's type of dean in terms of allowing the programs and the professors to say, hey, here's the kind of data that will show you how we are doing in your particular initiative. So those things are kind of being developed. We are looking forward to getting some of the data from the programs in June. That's when their first report out is due. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? All right, this is an action item. Is there a motion? Member Forbes.
I move we accept the quarterly report of University of Southern California.
So moved. Is there a second? Second by Member Taylor. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you, the representatives from USC. And thank you also, Ms. Gutierrez and Mr. Schuler, for joining us, and also for your work. All right, thank you all. So that brings us to, it's just almost 12:10, and we are done for the morning session. We have a return time at 1 p.m. for item 18, which is a 1 p.m. time certain. So I think we're good taking lunch till then. Okay, so we'll be back.
If you want to go all the way to like 1:05, that would be fine. We can at least let Kern know we'll be 5 minutes late.
Okay, sure.
Works for you
That
guys?
sounds, yeah, so hop up back in the building by 1, then we'll reconvene at 1:05. Thank you. All right, thank you all for coming back. Hope you enjoyed your lunch. We're going to reconvene the meeting of May 2022 of the Committee on Accreditation. We're looking at item 18. 18 is a report of the accreditation team to Kern County Superintendent of Schools. Consultant Bob Locks will introduce this item. And joining him is team lead Kimberly Lilienthal and institutional representatives Aleka Bryant, Director, Educator Development and Data Support, and Celia York, Coordinator of the Educator Development. Anyone need to recuse himself? I just one heads up is that there is an additional document that is available on this item, and the recommendation from the team right now is accreditation with stipulation due to the fact that the team found an issue related to the precondition. So the institution has submitted information about the precondition. So as we talk through our options and consider our action, we may want to consider that form, take that into to account. Any questions on that? All right, Mr. Locks, please begin.
Okay, thank you. The visit to Kern County Superintendent of Schools was held virtually from March 28th to the 30th, 2022, and there were no unusual circumstances surrounding the visit. The team felt they were able to have an accurate understanding of the institution, and all were in agreement with the recommendations. Team lead Kim Lilienthal will now share the team's recommendations.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to serve as team lead for Kern County Superintendent of Schools Educator Preparation Programs and represent the Committee on Accreditation. I'd also like to do a very quick appreciation for the team at Kern County Bob, our consultant, and our site visit team who volunteered their time to participate in the accreditation process. So just wanted to highlight a few items from the site visit report you were provided. It really was clear to the site visit team through stakeholder interviews that candidates, mentors, coaches, principals, and districts really are having a positive experience with their partnership with the Kern County programs. The team at Kern County is under the leadership of Malika and her supervisors, and they've worked really hard to establish a unit approach to educator preparation and really leverage the strengths of their different programs to assist with meaningful change and then alignment across both preparation programs. The Kern County Superintendent of Schools serves a wide variety of schools with different contexts, and another focus of theirs was really to provide specific support and develop program components that were really flexible enough to meet the needs of all of their different partners. It's also important to note that the team at Kern is involved pretty intimately with regional and statewide educator preparation, collaboration, and support efforts, and often called upon to support other programs. So in conclusion of my highlights, just wanted to reiterate that the hard work that this team has put in has really led to a well-established unit that's fully supported by the institution and all of their education partners, that really is data-driven and operates under the essential question: are students better off because of the support we provide the educators we serve? And that really was evident to us as we worked through this process with Kern. So after a review of the evidence and our visit interviews, the team made an unanimous decision of accreditation with stipulations for Kern County Superintendent of Schools. And that recommendation was based on the misalignment with, as Bob previously mentioned, with teacher induction precondition 1. And then we had the clear administrative services credential standard 4. Specifically to precondition 1 for teacher induction, the evidence that the team reviewed, just to give you a little more background on that, really did support the institution's commitment to precondition 1. It was very clear to us that this was an important component to Kern County Superintendent of Schools, but it was with interviews where we revealed just some inconsistency in terms of how partners were implementing that component. And when we shared the finding with the institution, they were so surprised and then also very concerned about the candidates who weren't being enrolled in their very first year of teaching. So it was very obvious to us immediately that they were committed to remedying the concern. And lastly, regarding CASC Standard 4 or Clear Administrative Services, Standard 4, that inconsistency with implementing observation of candidates. And through conversations with Kern, they had done some collaborative work with other programs in the state in the past where observation was specifically a discussion around how other programs were handling that. And it was through this review process where that requirement of observation was really made clear. So in closing, strong partnerships throughout the county and that commitment to educator preparation was really evident to the team and heard strong through all interviews. As I mentioned at the beginning, the commitment to not only impact their programs on the impact of their programs on candidates, but more specifically on students, and doing all of that through a continuous improvement process. I want to speak on behalf of the review team when I say that it really was a pleasure to work with the team at Kern, Malika, and really look at the amazing work that they were doing and how that was aligned to the standards. Happy to answer any questions that you may have when it comes to that time.
Thank you, Ms. Lilienthal. And now invite institutional representatives to briefly comment about the visit. We remind you it's not a time to dispute the team's report, but rather provide any thoughts that you may have about the visit itself.
Thank you so much. I would like to thank the Commission for designing a process that we found to be tremendously valuable, and also Bob and Kimberly for leading the process in such a valuable, positive, collaborative way where we felt supported the entire way. It was not really a stressful process. It was very positive and engaging, and we learned a lot. And we are fans of learning, so that was good for us. In turn, we are actually housed on the continuous improvement team. So we're open to continuous improvement processes. We are engaged in continuous improvement processes. And this was another opportunity for us to examine what we do, how we do it, and where we can improve. So we really embraced that process. It was also an opportunity for me to engage Celia in a larger role with this process and watch her blossom as she was learning and growing. And that was really exciting for me as her supervisor. So I will say to you that we understand the feedback that we're getting, and we have done a tremendous amount of work since our site visit in order to implement changes to address what needs to be done. So I don't know if this is the time for me to tell you what those are, or if you have questions for us in regards to that.
How about let's begin with some questions or comments from the COE, and then see if during the course of the conversation, if there's information that you'd like to share that has been addressed, you're welcome to do so. So any committee members, Member Tchaikovsky.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here, and congratulations on getting through the site visit with what sounds to be a positive experience. I found the observation early in the report on page 7 that, this idea that sometimes induction's considered, too much for new teachers to resonate. I mean, this, any first year of teaching is too much for any normal human being, right? I mean, we all know that. But I kind of appreciated that being called out in the report, and then acknowledging that the role of induction is to support new teachers as they are doing this very challenging work, right? It's not to create additional burdens unto them, right? So I think that's probably what site visits are really listening for. In looking through some of the links that were included in some of your documents, I saw you have an enrollment window now of August 1st to October 1st. I think that was in your most recent newsletter. And my question for you, which is informed by my own experience in my own district, is why do you have such a limited enrollment window, which in your area would kind of de facto exclude a lot of teachers who were hired later in the year? Why don't you allow people to begin induction every quarter instead of having just this one limited window at the beginning of the year?
So I'll speak to this a little bit, and then I'm going to let Celia fill in the details. That we start talking about enrollment earlier on and start identifying people sooner. And we also have a process of support beyond October. And so that window is there. It's a general framework. And then because we have such strong partnerships with our district partners, it really becomes an individual conversation with our district partners after that October window. And it is based upon whether or not that district partner feels as though entry into the induction program is the best process for that individual at that time, or if they want to access all of the support we provide without the formal piece of enrolling in the induction program. Because we are a fee-for-service program, we have over 50 partners. We're a large program, and so we provide a tremendous amount of services to our districts, whether an individual is specifically enrolled in the induction component or not, so that we are ensuring that every new employee has access to a large amount of support that we provide in partnerships with the districts. Celia, you want to add anything to that?
And just to kind of piggyback off what you've already said, Malika, we do open up all of our professional learnings. All of their teachers are provided our contact information, especially this year. We've found that that's been extremely important with the executive order candidates who are struggling with not just trying to complete induction, but also complete the TPA and or RICA. And so we've made sure to be a support system for them to help them get the additional support around RICA and or TPA. So we've opened up all of our services to our district partners for any of their teachers who need our support. We just wanted to make sure that we have those individual conversations with those late enrollees, with the district partner as well as the teacher, to make sure that the program is doing what it's supposed to do, which is to be support and not make them feel overwhelmed or overburdened because they're coming in, they're such a late hire that they're feeling now stressed because of that. So in those instances, we'll then go on a case-by-case basis, and we'll partner up with our district and have those conversations to determine on an individualized basis what is best for that teacher.
Thank you. I would strongly encourage you, in the spirit of induction, to really be very guarded about presenting induction as this additional challenge. Like even now in your answer, you said, it might not be in their best interest to get involved in something so late. And I would just say, as someone who's worked with new teachers, if a person comes to a classroom at the end of October, that's the hardest time for a person to come to a classroom. And that's when they need a mentor. That's when they need to focus on their goals the most. So you all know what you're doing. You've got lots of moving parts out there, but keep that language about, the value of induction, the streamlined nature of induction. It's not your grandma's pizza program, right?
I appreciate that feedback. And one piece I would add to that is sometimes it has to do, we have so many very small districts in our partnerships. Sometimes it has to do with their capacity in terms of assignment of a mentor, and we will support them in that. So there are many, many factors, and it's really about us with our partners determining what's the best process to support a hire at the time of hire past a certain point, so that they are being provided access to the largest amount of resources in that moment, that also are aligned with what we and the district can provide at the same time. So I appreciate the opportunity to reassess and think that part through. So thank you for the feedback.
Thank you. Member Forbes.
Well, maybe along those lines, can you say a little more then about how that timeline works with the precondition? So if induction is to be provided in the teacher's first year of teaching, is that a calendar year then in this view, so that they would ostensibly, if they started in let's say January, they might not expect to receive support until fall of the next year? Or,
this is one of the pieces
before January, right?
This is one of the pieces we're refining as we speak. And so for us, it's always been a fall enrollment with access to all of the resources except for that mentor pair, everything else that we provide, and networking with other teachers, connecting them with resources, having informal mentoring, but not that specific, along with the ILP component, really ensuring that they're provided with wraparound just-in-time support until they access enrollment in the induction program in the fall. It is not our program stance that this is burdensome. The comment which is referenced was one district partner's take on it, not our program's take. And it's certainly not the message that we give out. We fully believe that this is a job embedded process that is designed to support a candidate and help them grow and develop within the context of their teaching assignment. So we are always looking for ways to innovate in terms of providing that support as teachers are earning their credentials and as districts are informing us of that process. Because we do have multiple partners, that process is continuously being refined as we are learning and growing in that process.
Well, thank you, because I guess as a follow-up, maybe often in my experience, at least, I've seen that teachers don't always stay in the same assignment on if they're rehired for the next year, maybe they're not even going to be in the same assignment. So I was just kind of curious as to how that might work, to have the support not provided in the first part, but rather in the second part, which might even be another whole a different grade level or a different school site, or it was just something that made me think about that as you were talking. I do understand the motivation that you have to provide all these different layers of support, which sound great, but just kind of thinking of the legal obligation to serve a teacher during their first year and how that plays out if it's not done from the beginning of their teaching.
Member Tchaikovsky.
Yeah, exactly. And certainly, I mean, I think I appreciate you allowing the members of this group to think through this issue, because our job obviously is to try to be, even-handed in how we make these decisions and the feedback we give to programs. But I do think that this is something for all of us to think about here, because we're establishing kind of a precedent. Are we actually ensuring that a new teacher who's hired after this, idyllic start of the school year? I know this is many teachers in my district. I know there are many new teachers in my district right now who don't have access to induction, who have had to struggle simply because of when they landed in classrooms. So not necessarily directed at your program. This is not at all a critique of your model, knowing you've got 50 plus moving parts. You've got the ultimate challenge there. But I do think for the rest of us, we might be thinking about that issue moving forward. I mean, I remember, reflecting on this recently. So thank you for humoring us as we're thinking out loud with you as example A.
It's a continuous conundrum for all of us as we're looking to really honor that foundational idea of providing high quality support. And and we recognize that as a consortium, we have the same obligations as a single district, and we take that very seriously. And we are always looking to refine those practices. So feedback is helpful.
Great, thank you all. Any further comments or questions? This is an action item. Is there a motion from a committee member? Member Valentayo.
I move that we accept this report of, we accept this recommendation of accreditation with stipulations for Kern County Superintendent of Schools.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second? Second by Member Lee. All in favor, please say aye. All opposed? All right, thank you. Motion carries. So thank you, Ms. Bryant, Ms. York, Ms. Lilienthal. I'm so sorry, Ms. Lilienthal, and also Mr. Locks. Thank you all.